What's good, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the What's Good Games podcast. Usually your source for video game news, commentary, analysis, funny stuff every Friday. I'm Andrea Renee, joined in studio by Miss Brittany Brombachter.
Hello.
Brochter?
I was like Brombachter.
It's your new name.
I like it. I'm down with it. Is that what Andrea Renee calls me?
Exactly.
All right. Hello, I'm here.
And one Miss Christine Steimer is here.
Hello. That is my actual name.
That is your actual name. I like this puma that you have on your shirt.
It's a cheetah.
Did you find it in your closet?
Oh. It's a cheetah. I found it in my closet because I bought the shirt and it ended up there.
Do you get the joke though? There's a puma.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Do you think I wrote a book and don't remember the name?
Listen, Steimer, I don't know sometimes.
It's true. I am pretty dumb.
If you guys out there missed the Patreon special of a puma ate my, it was in my closet. Wait, a puma ate my closet? Amazing. It was a secret segment. There's a puma in my closet.
Puma in my closet.
And Steimer wrote a book that she
Nobel
wrote,
Prize winning. There's a
complete with illustrations.
And I think you were wearing your strawberry costume when we did this.
I think I was.
Yeah, we were all in our Halloween costumes.
Yeah, it was Halloween.
Yeah.
It's on the YouTube channel now, though, right?
Sure is.
YouTube.com/whatsgoodgames. It's good content right there.
Go enjoy my
You need
fifth grade writing.
a nighttime story to read to your children. Steimer has you
It's
covered.
a really weird one to pick, but you could. There's no bad words in it. I didn't know the bad words at the time.
That's true. Well, I mean, you probably knew them, but you knew that you would get in trouble if you used them.
Really was unaware for a very long time. Had a nice little bubble that I lived in. It was great.
Oh, that's really sweet.
It's because
Did you also, were you swearing also when you were very young?
Oh, no, I wasn't swearing when I was very young, but I mean, there was no pretenses about me knowing because I started watching like R-rated content pretty early. Because, you know, my dad was cool. He let us watch bad movies when we were young. Yeah. Thanks, Dad. But I knew full well that if I actually used those words that I would get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
So-
see, I swore all the time in front of my parents.
When
They
you
didn't
were a
care.
kid?
Yeah. I mean, my whole family all of us just swear. But there's that rule, that fine line of respect. Like, I knew who I
You
could
can't
swear in front of.
at someone.
Well, not at someone. And there's certain people, like my grandparents on my dad's side, I still don't swear in front of them because to them that's disrespectful. But like my grandma and everyone on my mom's side, that's just how we talk.
Right.
So, but you couldn't say it in front of teachers, in front of other kids. You know, just the rules.
It's impressive that you were able to have that kind of self-control as a child. Obviously, I think parents all have different kinds of styles when it comes to swearing. Like my sister, for example, swears a lot in front of her kids because she's like, whatever, I swear. They're just words. But I think it's, you know, she kind of has the same philosophy we do. You don't swear at people,
Right.
but you can like just swear at things or at the universe and it's fine. It's just another word. But I can't imagine having have to trust that your kid's just going to not use it at school, right?
I was just a little overachiever, a little brown noser, if you will.
That's why we love you.
Thanks.
I mean, I do. I was a
Brown
brown
noser.
noser too.
Yeah, it happens.
Listen, shout out to all the brown nosers who were like, I'm trying to get ahead at a young age. You can hate on me if you want, but look at us now.
Here we are. Look how great we're doing.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay, so you may be wondering, what the heck is going on with this week's
What
episode?
is this show?
So because the plan is that the week that this airs, Brittany and I are supposedly going to be out of town at the same time. We thought it'd be easiest if we just shot something in advance. And it's a topic that we've been wanting to do. We just didn't have time to do it earlier. But we thought we can't let the opportunity of the year turning 2020 pass us by without talking about our favorite games of the last decade. Now, I'm sure you guys have seen a ton of lists across many different sites kind of counting down their top 100, their top 20, their most influential, all kinds of people. But we wanted to talk about it because we love games as much as you guys do. And we would love to kind of chat about some of the games we thought were impactful to us over the last 10 years.
Yeet.
So these are our personal favorite games of the decade.
Correct.
Not critical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Clarification.
Because I did write down some what I thought would be critical games of the decade, but they weren't games I spent very much time with because it wasn't my fave. So we can maybe give them like honorable mentions at the end. But what we also thought would be interesting is that if we each have our personals, but that we will then have a group games of the decade, because let's be honest, there's going to be some overlap here for sure.
I got one neither of you are going to pick, but yeah.
Oh, yeah? I bet you I have one neither you are going to pick.
Yep.
Same here, bitches.
But we're going to have just like 3 individual ones and then the rest will all be the same.
Yeah, probably.
Excuse me. That's probably true. So I guess I wanted to pose to you ladies Do you want to start with group ones and then we can go to individuals?
Sure.
How does that sound? Cool.
Sounds fan-friggin-tastic.
Perfect. But before we do that, I want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Honey. Online shopping is supposed to be easy, so why is it so hard to find coupon codes that actually work? Thanks to Honey, it doesn't have to be. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You have Googled promo code or coupon code for your favorite website at least once in your life and know that you're going to be stuck trying several codes only to find out that all of them don't work. But not with Honey, because Honey is the free online shopping tool that saves you money online. Honey automatically finds the best promo codes and then applies them to the items already in your cart, which makes online shopping finally feel as easy as it's supposed to be. So imagine you're shopping at one of your favorite sites. Maybe it's Target, Best Buy, Sephora, Macy's, eBay, Etsy, etc. When you check out, this little box drops down and all you have to do is click Apply Coupons. You wait a few seconds for it to scan through all the promo codes on the internet. There's probably a lot of them. And then boom, watch the prices drop. So I was recently using Honey just a couple of days ago, actually, when I was shopping for a new desk chair for my office. So I've been using my chair that's supposed to go with my makeup vanity because I had to take the chair that was in the office out to the studio once the studio was complete. So I've actually been without a proper office chair for quite some time. So of course I go to one of my favorite websites to shop furniture, overstock.com, and I find the perfect chair after browsing for far too many hours. And I get to checkout and boom, Honey is right there and it says, are you ready to save some money and get some cash back? And I was like, yes, run all the coupon codes. And they ended up saving me $29.55 on this chair. I was like, holy moly, that's a lot of money. Just enough money for me to buy one more thing. But it was super easy. I have the Honey extension installed on my Chrome browser. So it literally did all of the work for me. I just had to click one button. Honey has found over 18 million members, over $2 billion in savings. Now, did you know that Honey supports over 30,000 stores online and they're adding more every day? Users love Honey, and that's why it has over 100,000 5-star reviews on the Google Chrome store. Not using Honey is literally passing up free money, you guys. Plus, it's free to use and install in just 2 clicks. So here's what you got to do. You can go to joinhoney.com/what'sgood and get Honey for free. That's right. It's not going to cost you a thing and it's going to save you money. Go to joinhoney.com/what'sgood. One more time, joinhoney, just like it sounds, joinhoney.com/what'sgood. By doing so, not only are you going to get Honey for free, but you're going to be supporting everything we do here at What's Good Games. Okay, so we decided to pick a top 3 that we collectively at What's Good Games believe are What's Good Games top 3 games of the decade. Now, we didn't rank them individually. It's just our 3 favorite games that all 3 of us really loved and really thought were impactful from the last 10 years. So, Steimer, you pick one from the list and talk about it first, and then Brittany will pick one, and then I'll do the last one.
Cool. Well, may as well talk about the greatest game ever. Not really, but it's pretty damn good. Mass Effect 2.
Yes, bells and whistles. Woo!
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, so obviously the whole Mass Effect series in general is very near and dear to, I think, all of us here. But 2 was obviously, I mean, it was
superior.
a little bit of like the Goldilocks of like the 3, right? Where you're like, okay, well, this one's a little this and this one's a little that. But 2 kind of hit a nice cadence and rhythm. But the one, I mean, like one thing about it that I always find funny is that it's like the whole Mass Effect 2 is the suicide mission of this thing. And then you can make it so no one dies. And I was like, that maybe I would have changed directionally for the game. I feel like it would have made more sense if it forced like at least one person isn't coming out of this. But otherwise, love that game. Think it's fantastic.
So just a little recap for people who maybe never played the Mass Effect series or never played Mass Effect 2 specifically. It's an action role-playing game developed by BioWare, published by Electronic Arts. It was released originally for Microsoft Windows and Xbox 360 back in 2010, and then PlayStation 3 in 2011. It's the second installment, of course, of the Mass Effect series, and a sequel to the original Mass Effect. It takes place in the Milky Way galaxy during the 22nd century, where humanity is threatened by an insectoid species known as the Collectors. The player assumes the role of Commander Shepard, or Femshep, she's the best, an elite human soldier who must construct and gain the loyalty of a diverse team and stop the enemy in a suicide mission. With the use of a completed save game of its predecessor, the player can impact the story of the game in numerous ways.
Oh, yeah. So what was so cool for me about Mass Effect is this is the first game I had ever played where your data transfers from game to game. And I'll never forget, because I wrote about it in my old website, blender.com. The coolest thing, I mean, it wasn't the coolest thing, it was kind of heartbreaking and kind of made me very mad, was I was faithful to Kaidan throughout the entire playthrough of Mass Effect 2, right? And the first Mass Effect 2 is my boy, and obviously, you know, you don't see him for a bit in Mass Effect 2, and then you see him, and he's a fucking asshole to you.
That broke my heart
Yeah.
more than most things in a video game.
Yeah.
Because I was so I think you and I were like, we're so excited to finally see Kaidan. Because like I was literally playing this whole game just like, where's Kaidan? Where's Kaidan? Where's Kaidan?
Yeah.
And then you
see
find him.
It's like,
And
sorry,
you wish you didn't find him.
I was dying in space. Sorry, I couldn't like get back to you right away, homeschool.
Sorry I didn't text you
Sorry,
back.
I didn't text you back. I
I
was kind
was
of going
dead.
through some shit.
Yeah, I
That's
never
the
liked
best-
Kaidan.
That's the oh wow.
Oh, yeah, see.
Yeah, sorry. He was never my thing. I mean, Liara was like my bae. So what's interesting about my history with Mass Effect is that I actually started out playing Mass Effect 2 first, and then I went back and played the original Mass Effect, and then brought my new save forward and replayed Mass Effect another 4 times for 5 total playthroughs, start to finish. Listen, I was going to get the perfect ending, and it just took me a couple tries.
It was so funny. I remember too. I was flirting with Garrus because I was horny.
Yeah,
Shep
I
was
mean,
horny.
you know,
I'm sorry. He looks like
You
a
gotta
cricket.
do what
Yeah.
you got. He looks like a cricket.
Garrus
Like an
looks
avian cricket.
avian cricket. Yes, exactly. And I remember I was.
You're like, oh yeah, crickets. Crickets in my jam.
Garrus though, he had this confidence about him that Kaidan I think lacked. Now, granted, Kaidan was going through some stuff with his.
Kaidan was a good old boy.
He was, but he was troubled. But I think that was part of his thing.
Part of his appeal.
But Garrus was always so witty and competent, and I liked talking to him. And so I remember we were flirting, and I think some way things got taken a step too far, and we told each other we were going to try to attempt interspecies sex.
Which is dangerous with a
And I was like, cool, that sounds good. Like, hey, I haven't had any in a while anyway. So I go back to to Shep's.
Go ahead and probe me.
I go back to Shep's quarters, and I look for Kaidan's photo, and it was face down. Because I had crossed that line with
I mean,
Garrus.
but like, can you imagine though if you'd had his fucking face up there and watch it? You're like, watch Kaidan.
Well, I was so
Awkward.
traumatized. I was like, oh no, I had spent the whole game being faithful to him, and now I've cheated on him in a sense. And that was, at the end of that game when you're
I
looking
think
at
it's
their
pretty safe
photo.
to say you're broken up. You're not cheating on him.
Well, but but his photo was face down, and I was
Yes,
very sad.
it's very much the direction of I'm moving on from this versus
So I
cheating. Is all I'm
reloaded
saying.
my save.
Yeah,
Oh no,
you can't cheat on
for
someone
sure.
who's really
No,
not
for-
interested
you're,
in being with
You're
you.
right. That's a complicated
That's fair.
situation. So I had to reload a save and bow out with Mr. Garrus, but that was also one of those moments like, God, Mass Effect 2 was such a good game. It's such a little thing, but I still think about that. That was a complicated relationship.
There's so
There were a
many
lot,
of
yeah.
those individual moments that really make Mass Effect such a masterpiece of a role playing game. I mean, I think it clearly had some flaws.
Yeah.
There was a lot of the combat that felt a little clunky and the shooting that wasn't great. But I loved what they did with the biotic system and being able to kind of customize the kind of Commander Shepard that you wanted. But what I think where Mass Effect 2 really shined for me was the building of relationships with each of your individual team members as you went on the loyalty missions, getting to know about them, where they came from, and having those interactions, and just the diversity of experiences you can have based off the kinds of conversations you had with those teammates, I think is what really made Mass Effect so special.
And I think when you were saying that, it like there were so many little things that they added, which was really nice. So like, I love that you can recruit Samara or her daughter, Morinth, I believe her name was.
In
and
Mass Effect 3?
Yeah. Oh wait, shit, was that 3? No, that's 2.
Is it 2?
She's suicide mission girl.
Oh, Samara. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah,
You're right.
I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and then what I like is so she talks about the fact that she's basically a Black Widow, right? The daughter, not
Mhm.
Samara. Samara's like the girl bringing her in, or her mom. But anyways, you can in the game like attempt to romance Morinth and she'll kill you, and it's a game over. And I just think that's so.
Oh wait, what?
Amazing.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's just so fun. I'm like, yes, I love that you put that in the game. You were like, you know what? You can go for it if you want to, but you're going to regret it. She's very honest with you. She says exactly what she is.
Yep. I vividly remember making a specific save file right before that decision and then going back and like reloading. That was like in the glory days of when you could like totally like kind of like skirt some of these things with different kinds of save
very,
files.
very clever with your save files. Now a lot of it is auto save, and you just
get
shit out of
screwed.
luck.
Yeah.
You're just like,
Too much
oh no,
pressure.
now I made that decision and I have to live with it.
Or you gotta
start
all the way
all
over
over
again.
Man, I would love to do that
Thanks.
trilogy over again. I've only played each game once.
What?
Oh
really?
really? I played Mass Effect 1 8 times. Then I
Yes.
played 2 like 3 or 4, but I only played 3 once because that game broke my fucking heart.
Really?
Yeah.
But you couldn't see the silver lining of what was good about that game?
No, I could, but it just made me not. I just didn't want to pick it up again.
Yeah. Was it the fact that you were disappointed with the ending, or the fact that like they essentially killed Shepard in the end?
It just felt over for me in
Yeah.
a lot of different ways. Part of it was I wasn't super satisfied with the ending, even the retconned one. Part of it was that actually up until that point with the weird ending, I just felt like all of the ends were tied up the way that I would have wanted them to. And except for me getting to marry Kaden and ride off into the sunset. That's it. That was the one thing I wanted. And they had DLC and stuff that came out. I just couldn't bring myself to play it. I just was like, in a way, that whole game, the entire journey of it, not just the ending, like was me saying goodbye to Mass Effect. And obviously I played Andromeda, and I'll play other things as they come out. But for me, that was kind of putting the trilogy to rest. And
Now, does Shepard die in the end? I thought at the very end in the newer version.
It depends
which
on
ending
which
you get.
ending you
Okay, because
get.
that was the ending I got. Because I played it after the new. Like, I've always loved Mass Effect, but it was never my favorite. Dragon Age was more my thing. So I finished Mass Effect 3 after they redid the ending. And I got the scene where she takes, like, a breath. And I was like, oh, baby.
That's
Yeah.
if you basically are like, go F yourselves, Reapers. I am not listening to the weird child.
Yeah,
And then you basically see Shepard on the Rebel take a breath. But I'm like, then you do die immediately because like I think there's no one else around.
And all the relays have been destroyed.
Yeah, all the relays.
and
I don't know who
it's
gonna
like,
help
where
you.
do they go from here?
that's incredibly depressing.
Yeah, you can still use faster than light speed, but you can't travel the way that you used to.
Well, it's shitty.
Yeah. But I hope that they eventually make a remaster of that. I would really love to see a complete remake, quite frankly, but I'll take a remaster.
I would love a remake of the first.
Yeah, the
Because
first
like,
one
the
needs
first
it.
one definitely needs it more. But I still do think story wise, not necessarily with the individual characters, but story arc wise, the first one is the strongest. Character wise, the second is the strongest. And then third, again, I do
The
think
combat, I
up
think, is the
until
strongest in the third.
The ending, I think they were doing a really nice job of like tying up everything that had come before it. But yeah, and just I don't know, just pretend like that didn't happen. That's all.
No.
Yeah. But we salute you, BioWare and Mass Effect 2, for being one of our top 3 games of the last decade. So, next up, Britt, which one are you going to go for?
I want to talk about Boy Simulator.
All right.
Dance Simulator. God of War, obviously. I mean, we've talked about this game so many times on this show. I don't know what more we really need to say about it. But when I think of a video game masterpiece, I just think of immediately of God of War. And for all the reasons that we've talked about before, I think obviously the narrative is just incredible. The acting's it's a beautiful game. Everything about it is just so compelling and good, especially
those wolves.
Oh, fuck the wolves. It's a fine game or whatever you said it was.
I said I think I said it was fine.
It's fine.
I was like, it's a good game.
Because I think all three of us were a little nervous beforehand because God of War had never really been any of our things.
Yeah.
Right.
And the fact that it reeled us all in and we're all unanimously like game of the year, masterpiece, one of the most incredible games you can play. I think that just speaks volumes.
Yeah, I think it was
Absolutely.
interesting what they did with this character that previously had meant nothing to any of us because Kratos is very one note, right? He's just mad.
He likes to fuck things.
He's just mad all of the time. And you're like, look, I get mad sometimes, but I'm not mad 100% of the time because that would be exhausting.
Indeed.
So to then take that character and be like, what if he wasn't angry all of the time?
What if he was like
what if he
complex?
What if he had more emotions? What if he cared about someone? I mean, obviously he cares about somebody and then they die and that's why he goes into super rage mode. But regardless, I just really thought it was beautiful what they did with that character, and they were like, "But what if?"
Yes, exactly. So just as a refresher, even though you probably don't need it since this game is relatively recent, God of War is an action-adventure game developed by Santa Monica Studio and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. It was released on April 20th, 2018 for the PlayStation 4. It is the 8th installment in the God of War series, the 8th chronologically, and the sequel to 2010's God of War 3. Unlike previous games, which were loosely based on Greek mythology, the installment is rooted in Norse mythology, with the majority of it set in ancient Norway in the realm of Midgard. For the first time in the series, there are two protagonists, Kratos, the former Greek god of war, who remains the only playable character, and his young son, Atreus. Following the death of Kratos' second wife and Atreus' mother, they journey to fulfill her request that her ashes be spread at the highest peak of the 9 realms. Kratos keeps his troubled past a secret from Atreus, who is unaware of his divine nature. Along their journey, they encounter monsters and other gods in the Norse world.
Yeah.
They did such a good job. Corey Barlog.
Shout out to Corey
not
Barlog.
just Corey.
No, and
the
everyone else,
entire
of
team,
course.
yeah.
But, you know, Corey.
I think what's really phenomenal about what that team was able to accomplish is that they had an immense amount of pressure to deliver on a very iconic PlayStation franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I can only imagine what they must have been feeling when they were leading up to the reveal. I don't know if did you guys watch the documentary about God of War?
Yes, but it was a while ago, so I'm a
Yeah.
little hazy.
So they had this really nice moment in the documentary, and if you haven't watched it, I can't recommend it enough. It is incredibly well done.
The Raising Kratos, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
They have footage from early days at the studio when they were just getting started on the development of this, and then they have this moment with Corey when he went on stage at E3 to reveal it, and how they were able to keep that reveal a secret up until, you know, the moment when the orchestra started and then we saw Kratos on screen. And it's
You and I were sitting next to each other.
yeah, it was back in the days when PlayStation had some of the best press conferences around.
Yep.
Rip. So I mean, it's true though.
It's
so
true.
What I think was so impactful was that they were able to take this character and make this incredible narrative that I think touched on a lot of things that people were able to identify with. And I think that's a lot of reasons why people like the game. But the thing that really struck me, because there's a lot of great narratives out there, was just how perfect the combat flow felt. Because playing God of Wars in the past, hack and slash and combat was such a huge emphasis, and that franchise is known for having really slick, fluid, fast-paced combat. And it was like, well, how are they going to do this with this one-cut camera that Corey was really insistent on? And I think that's something a lot of us forget, is if you go back and play or watch some gameplay, the cinematography of the game is what elevated that experience, and it's probably because you never noticed it because it was so well done.
Yep.
I just like every little piece of that, like playing with the hammer, the Leviathan axe, I mean, and being able to like throw it and have it come back, have it feel like
That
Mjolnir,
weightiness.
right?
Yeah, it was great.
Exactly. And then getting the Blades of Chaos were amazing, and the upgrade system. I mean, literally every piece of that game feels like a masterpiece.
Even Mimir, that little fucking head,
Dude.
he had the best
Yeah,
life
Mimir.
advice to have. You know, he's always dropping knowledge, and everyone's listening. And him and Atreus, and Atreus actually cared about that kid, and I didn't think I would. And I got so emotional during that part where, I mean, I'm not gonna spoil anything much. Anyway, he goes through some shit. He's on his, I'm high and mighty, look how cool I am. And you command him to shoot something, an arrow, and he's like, whatever. And he flips you that attitude. It was so perfect, and it made me so mad at the same time. Like,
Yes.
because they knew what they were doing when they wrote that in there.
Oh,
And,
of course.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I love it.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh.
it definitely, my temper flared. I was like, you do what I tell you to do. I am your father.
Do you know I am Daddy Kratos? Little
Yeah,
punk?
which is so funny because you're like, yeah, man, kids just know how to, even fake children know how to push
but it's
your
little
buttons.
moments like that where someone had the, you know, the hindsight to, or not hindsight, foresight, is that the word?
Yes.
To put it in and be like, yeah, this little one word, but it still sticks with me.
I think that there's so many of those moments in that game too, and like the set pieces, which God of War as a franchise is known for, did not disappoint this time around either. If I think about,
Oh my god, that giant dead, like frozen
the-
giant
yeah.
that you could crawl
The frozen
around on.
giant
Yeah,
was
you're
really
just like,
cool.
whoa.
the
Serpent.
turtle tree house was
Yeah.
coming to see that for the first time was really neat, and just so many of those moments that really kind of define like the set design, the art design, the art direction. the kind of world building at large was just so well done, and graphically just looked so beautiful. A bonus to being at the later part of the life cycle for the console.
Oh, definitely.
Oh,
So
man.
it's just I almost feel bad for the other studios in Sony Interactive Entertainment's label, because it's like, oh, the bar's been set like super high now.
Yeah. Days Gone.
Yeah, if you're gonna remake a franchise, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back and play that game again. The only thing I didn't finish in that game was the final Valkyrie fight.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, you were on the struggle bus with that for a while. I watched
Yeah.
you try it.
I mean,
Yeah.
I watched tutorials, I
Yeah.
watched walkthroughs, and I just like,
See, I never did any of the Valkyrie fights.
oh,
I got too
some of the best boss
frustrated.
fights I've ever done.
Oh,
The
they're
thing is,
intense.
like, for me, I'm not somebody who's like, yeah, I love boss fights. And I actually think this is another part of the game that they did really well. They're like, here's a bunch of stuff, and you don't have to touch it.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, good.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will do a very little bit of it and then nothing else. Like, I don't want to do these Valkyrie fights. I'm sure they're cool. I can watch them on YouTube. Somebody else can deal with that. But like, I don't have the patience for it. And then like a bunch of the other kind of collectible stuff, I was like, no, I don't need that.
Yeah, I forgot about that whole area where you can collect the orbs or whatever it is. And then you can-
Niflheim?
Yeah, and you can craft that armor. Oh my god.
Yeah, Niflheim is intense. I spent time there just upgrading so I could do the Queen of the Valkyries fight and not be so underpowered, but it didn't matter because like I always got so stressed out when I would do Niflheim runs because you had X amount of time to like make it back.
Right.
Otherwise you lose everything that you've collected.
It's a lot of stress.
Yeah, too much stress.
Still so good. I liked it when she would step on you. She'd be like, worthless, pathetic. The Valkyries. I was like, yeah, tell me more.
Well, we know what Brittany's into now.
Amazing.
You know,
Pardon me, I'm just getting a cough drop.
stick it in your mouth and wrap it. Yeah.
Do you guys have any final thoughts about God of War?
It's real good. If you haven't played it, you really should.
Yeah, what I actually think is funny is that even though this is, I have 2 games on here that are fairly recent, but a lot of the other stuff is older. So that doesn't necessarily mean that just because it came out,
Yeah.
later in the life cycle that it had a benefit in any way. I mean, obviously it did in the sense that they understood the engine better and they could make a better looking game and a better running game.
Sure.
But I mean, there was obviously a very real possibility of this coming out and it flopping horribly. And flopping horribly, not necessarily in terms of sales, but in terms of the way it struck with both God of War fans and non-fans. And I think they managed to hit both. And I think that is super rare to be like, wow, we've actually been able to reach a whole new set of people just because of the way we have slightly altered not only the main character, but the world that we're in and taking a look at that. So...
Yeah, that's actually a good point too, because I remember everyone was nervous, prior God of War fans, that they were going to resonate with this Kratos, because all of a sudden, big badass Kratos has a child that he cares about, and now
he has a child that he cares about, but
he
only
will
calls him
still-
boy.
boy. So,
There was part of the game where I was like, I don't know if Kratos is this guy's father, because I don't know of any father who just calls his kid boy, like, boy.
Kratos has some things
And I was like, he's never once called him by his name.
I thought there was a point in the game where he does use his name.
He
at
does
least.
at some point, yeah. But like when I was,
Yeah.
first getting into the
Yeah.
game, I was like, I'm really confused. Why does he only call him boy?
To assert dominance.
No, I know, but
Right?
I was just
Male
like, huh?
thing.
So
He has a name. That's okay.
if my dad was just like, girl,
Oh, I know.
I'd be like, excuse you?
I wonder if Kratos
I'm
is a
5,
Super
but I'm
Saiyan.
not okay with this.
Amazing. You're like, I'm actually a girl, but like, I'm still not cool, Dad.
Like, I'm not just an object. I have a name. You named me. You dumb. You don't remember?
Amazing. All right. So we're going to move on to our last game in our top 3 games of the decade for us collectively as a group. And that game is Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yes. I'm so glad that Brittany is now on board the train.
Yes, me too. So let me just start by reading the little blurb about it. So Horizon Zero Dawn is an action role-playing game developed by Guerrilla Games and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. It was released for the PlayStation 4 in early 2017. The plot follows Aloy, a hunter in a world overrun by machines, who sets out to uncover her past. The player uses ranged weapons, a spear, and stealth to combat mechanical creatures and other enemy forces. A skill tree provides the player with new abilities and bonuses, and the player can explore the open world to discover locations and take on side quests. So I was instantly in love with this game when it came out, but I remember watching the reveal and thinking it looked really cool, but going, I don't know how I'm going to feel about that game. And I think what really drew me to the game was not only was Aloy a very strong protagonist.
And she had red hair.
Oh, she had red hair. That may have had something to do with it. But the way that they unfolded this narrative inside the world and really made it feel like you were progressing and uncovering more and more bits of the story, and like the way that they tied it up at the end too, I was just like, when it all came together, I had so many questions at the beginning, and then by the end I was so impressed by the writing that Guerrilla did.
I was super prepared to not feel that way at the end of the game. Going into it, I had all these questions, same as you, and I was just here. The thought process I had was, this is a video game. It's not going to answer any of these. I'm going to have to headcanon this and figure it out myself because that is honestly like traditionally what I've found a lot of gaming stories to be. It's like, here we've laid out this world, but we don't really know why.
It's just
cool.
cool.
It's just kind of cool or whatever, and like, whoops, like, look over there, it's a monkey. I don't know. You just it goes to a weird place where you're sort of forced to forget about the questions you had because nobody wanted to answer them.
Right.
Or just didn't, they were just, I don't know. Or they're like, well, we want to make a sequel and therefore we need to leave some things open. And even though this obviously could have, more stories to tell with Aloy, they didn't do the thing where they're holding you hostage with it. Like,
right.
You get the answers you are searching for. And I was so happy about that because, like I said, you very rarely get that. And honestly, like, as much as I love BioWare, I feel like they are very guilty of this too, where it's just you're not quite getting everything that you want out of the ending.
Right.
Not even just 3, but like the other ones too, or a little bit, they just leave you hanging there. And you're like, but excuse me, I have some
I want to know the questions.
I have some questions. Could you answer, please? Thank you. Goodbye.
Yeah. Obviously, everyone knows my history with Horizon Zero Dawn. Too Many Trees. I didn't play it for a very long time until just like a couple months ago. And I wasn't prepared, I guess, to be so sucked into this game the way I was, just because of my original history with it. I was like, I'll start it. We'll see how it goes. But once I don't know where my headspace was last time I tried playing it, what it was, or maybe it was because I knew
God of War is a fine game.
It's a fine game. I pulled a
Horizon Zero Dawn is a fine game.
It's a fine game. But yeah, like I was just so sucked into it, and I collected everything, and I never do that. But something about Aloy and putting her in all these different situations and meeting all these different characters was infinitely interesting. Everything she did, I'm like, tell me more. Everything she said, I want to figure her out because, she is alone the whole game besides the few characters that she sees, and she has her little friends in the end that comes in through like holograms or whatnot. But, so you don't really get to hear a lot about her speaking. You only really get her personality as she's talking to other people, right?
Right.
And
Sure.
that's why it's so interesting, and that's why I always wanted to keep having her talk to people and do the side quests and collect every little thing she collected. She had something to say about it. I'm like, oh, I just think she's a fascinating character.
Shout out to Ashley Birch.
Yeah. And the combat in that game is probably some of the most fun I've had.
I loved the combat.
It's so good. And I love crouching in the tall grass and waiting for the monster robots to come my way.
Making traps.
Oh man, tripwire. I had tripwires.
You're like, okay, you're gonna come through here.
It was so
and then you die.
fun. Yeah, it was so much fun. I had like 20 tripwires just surrounding me, and I would whistle. I'd throw rocks, be like, hey, come my way, friends. And then they would all blow up, and it
using
was
the
brilliant.
arrows that like blow off the armor. Yeah, there's just so.
It's a testament to Guerrilla's work on the combat design because it made you feel like each upgrade you got and each new thing that was added to your arsenal was there for a purpose and was there for a reason.
Yeah.
And the different types of machines that you would have to fight along the way really forced you to rotate through that arsenal of tools and say, hey, like I can't use this weapon that I've been kind of having a crutch on against this machine because it's ineffective. I have to use this other play style instead. And so few games nail that combat loop. They kind of just allow you to choose your play style and then let you get comfortable there, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I think it's more interesting design when you can force me maybe out of my comfort zone, but then you make learning the process fun
That's just it.
along the way. Yeah.
It's fun to learn the weak points of the different machines, and you generally, I'm the kind of person who likes to just hit shit. Like, give me a sword, give me a shield.
You are the
the tank.
You are the tank. The face roll. You're just like face tank. That's
face tank.
I
Yeah,
was
just
like, what is
me.
the term?
And if that works, then I'm going to use it. But it doesn't work, and generally that would be something that I think would irritate me if I can't just use the same technique all the time. But yeah, this was fun. It was just cool. Okay, so I know with this machine, I gotta knock that part off, so I'm going to use this arrow, and then I know they're weak against this, so I'm going to use that, and then I'm going to do a tripwire here. It was just so fun. I think it would be cool to have, like, think of Monster Hunter, but with the combat of Horizon. I think that would be really fun. Like, huge, big old monsters, and what are those big boys called?
The ones that open up the map?
Yeah, which big boys?
No, not tall necks. Sorry, the big beasts, the big machines, the really, really big ones that you only kind of start fighting toward the end.
Behemoths?
Maybe.
Hold on.
I think it might be the behemoths. But yeah, just like machines like that, and just taking them down with your friends, like raids. Oh, that'd be fun. Make it happen in the next one.
Yeah, I'm definitely very much looking forward to getting another installment. Obviously, we know that they're working on it. There's been leaks around it, and with how successful it was for a brand new IP, I don't know why they wouldn't make another one. But I think it's also important to recognize how well Guerrilla, a studio that was known for its shooter franchise, kind of pivoted and said, hey, we're going to do an open world action game and bring in these really, I thought, meaningful RPG elements as well, and do stuff that's like conversational. You're going to form relationships with these characters, something that we didn't really get in the franchise that they were doing before, the not Resistance, oh my gosh, the Killzone franchise, which is what they were working on. And so I think it's also like so impressive that they as a studio were able to take their engine and make something that was completely different than the identity that most gamers knew them from, which is also, I think, leads us to why we picked this game as being so impactful in the decade.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was literally just thinking it. I was like, it was also just super impressive to come from that studio, because that is not a studio, as you mentioned, that was known for any of those things, and to come out and just nail it and on so many different aspects just made me really happy for them. And also because, like, it was a little, I don't know, I was like, what is going to happen with them? What's the future of the studio? Because, like, all of their shooter franchises were kind of, they did fine, right?
Yeah.
Like, no one was champing at the bit for them, you know?
Right.
It was just, they were just kind of the shooter of the PlayStation world. And, like, that was what you would get instead of a Halo. Sorry. Like, that's...
No, you're not wrong at all. That's totally correct. I mean, like, that franchise, I think, was iconic for PlayStation as a brand, but probably only because there wasn't a lot of competition. And, like, some of them reviewed well. I've played several of them over the years, but, like, I don't find myself craving more Killzone.
No.
Right.
So I think there's a couple that it could be. There is a Behemoth, there's the Thunderjaw, and then there's the Deathbringer. Those are kind of like the three biggest.
Okay, I think I'm thinking of the Thunderjaw. I'll just look at a picture. Anyway, some of the most fun combat I've ever had in a game, and it's just such an interesting idea, the whole thing. Fucking play it. Don't be me. Don't pull a Britt. Don't be scared about the trees.
Yeah, I think really what we also want to say is that it was impressive that Sony Interactive Entertainment had so many standout games of the decade, because the PlayStation 4 just dominated this last decade.
It's true.
And so, like, good job. Keep it up. Make more cool games for the next decade. And on that note, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about our personal favorite games of the decade. Stick with us. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back, everybody. We are continuing our discussion here at What's Good Games on our favorite games of the decade. So we talked about our top 3 collective games of the decade, and now we're going to talk about some of our individual games of the decade. So I think what would be the most fun way for us to do this is us to each take one from our list, and we'll just go around in a circle.
This sounds good.
Semicircle.
Cool? Okay.
Yeah.
Steimer, you're up.
So, the game that neither of you will pick, because you played it with me for a very short period of time. Guild Wars 2.
Yeah.
This was an MMO that came out. I can't believe that it came out in 2012. Like, it feels like yesterday. I can't believe it was that long ago. My life was so different. It's super weird to think about. But this game came out. I've always dabbled in MMOs, but I put in like 1,100 hours into Guild Wars 2.
That's
and
a
if
lot.
that does not make it Game of the Decade, I don't know what does. It absolutely hooked me in all of the right ways. The combat was super fun. So I was used to,
That's
playing like
45 full days of Guild Warsing.
45. Yeah, 45 days. That's what I did. I had like I still do. They still exist. I could still log on and play them. But I just have like level 80s, which was the top level for almost every class. Not all of them, but like a good chunk. And I think part of the reason why I did fall down this rabbit hole was I did manage to find a group of people that I really enjoyed playing with. So I was logging on almost every night to do fractal runs, which is basically like randomized dungeons. And where sometimes did not make, you're just like sitting there like kind of beating your head against the wall trying to make it through this one part. It'd be like, I'm so sorry I'm late for dinner. Like I have just been playing this game with people in Texas, so therefore their time zones are a little wonky. I just have so many fond memories of playing this game, playing it with other people, even when I was running around by myself, being able to customize my character the way I wanted to. They have so many systems that I wish Destiny had adopted a lot more of these systems. There's so many games I wish like those designers would go play Guild Wars 2 and see how player friendly they tried to design it to be, instead of getting you on this perpetual like level grind or loot grind that you need to have like a gear check. Guild Wars was pretty friendly about not having that. And there are some at this point. Granted, I haven't logged in this game for like 3 or 4 years. I'm so sorry.
No, you logged in.
I know, but it feels like longer. I don't know. It feels like a very long time. But I feel like if I logged in right now, I could still traverse the world just fine and go anywhere I wanted to go. I just wouldn't be able to do a lot of end game content because I think at this point you need ascended gear, and I don't have that.
Are you staying away because you don't want to get rehooked?
That's part of it. And part of it, like I did go back. You're right. I don't remember which year it was. Whenever one of the expansions released, and the map was super vertical, which is a very cool concept, but I kind of didn't like it. And I just found myself a little bit more confused than anything. I was like, how do I see this point of interest? Where the fuck is it? Like, how do I get there?
That's the worst.
But the nice thing about it is the Guild Wars community was still so friendly. And so I would just I never talk to all chat. I never talk. Like, you do not talk to people on the internet. They are scary. But here, I was like, hey, I don't understand. Like, can you? And then you just hot link, like, where is this? And someone's like, oh, here. And like this character just comes out of nowhere and leads you to the place so that you can get it marked off on your map. And I was like, this is why I love this game.
Yeah.
Like, people are so into it. The combat is much more action oriented. You have to be dodging. You have to be doing combos so you can add stacks of might, because the stacks of might means that you do more damage. You want to be doing like AoE effects so everyone's getting these stacks. Like, there's so many little elements to it that felt a lot more like an action game than an MMO. Because if you're playing a WoW or whatever, like, sorry, but at this point, that combat is just old. I mean, it's old. It is old. Like, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And no matter how they try and update it, you can only update it to a certain amount at this point, without rebuilding the whole thing from scratch. And so,
Right.
and that's why I really liked Guild Wars, because it was like, no, we had this is built this way.
Yeah, I really liked playing it when Jason and I played it because you got us hooked.
Yes.
I
I
think
was
we
like,
probably-
please play with me.
I think we put maybe 30 to 40 hours or something into it. But yeah, what I really liked about it is one of the reasons we burned out on WoW was the combat was so tedious. Press 2 and you press 2 and you do the same thing and it's boring. But this, you have to be nimble and on your toes and rolling around.
And like you can pick characters that are more face tanky, like the warrior's a little bit more like you kind of can just stand there and hit the thing and it'll die. But there are so many other classes that have a lot more finesse and like a higher skill cap. So I really liked playing around with the Mesmer class, which I also think is just super cool. It's basically a class designed around illusions, and all of the illusions are purple, and like when they shatter, they turn into purple butterflies. And it's so cool. Like there's the visuals of this game too are just so good. I still loved being an elementalist, because there was a move if you had an offhand dagger called Ride the Lightning, and you would just hit it and you just shoot, like you shoot across and like lightning is just shooting behind you. It was so cool. And then the legendaries were dope. You get foot. Oh God, I want to go back.
This is the problem with this conversation we're having, talking about all these games. I'm like, I want to get in all of them. I mean, everything is getting delayed this year.
I was so close to a legendary, and I never got it. I never got my. Maybe I should just go get my legendary.
Maybe you should just do that.
Go get it.
We'll do a quest and be like, "Hello, what's good, people? I need your help," because you can't getting a legendary required a group. I helped all of those other people get legendaries,
And you didn't get one.
and I did not get one.
Hell no.
Part of it was my fault.
Okay.
Part of it was that I could not choose. I was having trouble picking which class would be my main. Therefore, I had trouble picking which legendary weapon I would want. And so it's not their fault. They are not bad people. But I just couldn't decide.
It's okay. You have that issue in games like this.
I do. I just get paralyzed by choice because I'm like, but that's shiny and pretty. That's shiny and pretty. That's shiny and pretty. Like I just get. And I'm like, do I want to be somebody wearing no clothes or do I want to be somebody wearing a full suit of armor? Both. I have two characters. I have more than two, but I have a warrior who's like
bikini male?
She's fully suit of armor, completely covered, badass looking. My ranger's kind of mid. She basically wears the same armor as one of the main characters of the game. And I definitely have is it my elementalist that's a little slutty? I can't remember. One of my magic users is she's wearing nothing. And then I have my thief who has the underboob armor, which I just think it's funny.
Oh yeah.
I think it's funny to have your boob hanging out while you're stabbing somebody in the neck.
And if that's your choice, then hey man.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
It makes me laugh, and so I play her that way. It's just
I would love to get back into another MMO, but it's just not a good idea.
At the time I've thought about it, and I keep thinking about it, so which means at some point I am going to log back on.
Well,
here's
the thing. Every game's getting delayed, so you have some time.
You're not wrong.
See?
You're not
wrong.
It's true.
There you go.
Oh, no.
So
is that what I'm going to be playing this week on the show?
Please do. I want to hear about it. Yes, ma'am.
Listen, if you let Steimer talk about Guild Wars, we'll be here all day.
It's true. All right,
we've got lots more games to talk about.
I love her talking. Look at her face.
I just get so excited about Guild Wars.
We just gotta start playing it again.
Yeah.
Guess that we know
Longing
what she's
sigh.
downloading later tonight.
Oh, it's already downloaded, girl. It's installed. I just have to do probably patches.
Yeah,
lots of
updates.
patches.
Yeah. Okay, Britt, what's yours?
I'm going to say Divinity Original Sin 1 and Divinity Original Sin 2. I'm going to lump them together because it's
fine.
Kind of the same
I'm
thing.
doing that with one of mine too.
Perfect. Yeah, so I don't know if I've ever had more fun with a game in this decade, and I think part of it is because it's also co-op, and Jason and I play a lot of co-op games together. I think that's the most fun I have when playing games. And what I love about it is it's essentially this huge, huge world. Each game maybe took us 110, 115 hours to beat, so there's a lot to do. And they're just kind of like, hey, Larry and Sudos, just go on and do it. Try to break the game if you want. Go do the quest. If you see a door that you need to get into, but you don't have a key, just hit the door for 15 minutes until it breaks. You can do those things. You can go to a town and you can kill everyone if you want, which is something Jason has done before, which is not good.
He's murdered everyone. But Jason's so nice.
Oh, no, he's an asshole in games. Complete
that's funny.
griefer.
That's probably why he's nice in person. He gets it out inside
games.
I see you, Demers.
Mm-hmm. And so because we have two different play styles, you know me, I just want to save everyone. I want to do all the side quests. I want to do everything. He just wants to kill things and pickpocket things. It was really testament to how well this game was crafted and built because you can get away with that. Mm-hmm. You can go to an entire town, and typically what I would do is, because I care about the story and the lore, he doesn't really. He just wants to fight things. He will go off into town, take a left, I'll take a right, I'll start getting all the quests. And meanwhile, he's just pickpocketing everything. He's stealing everything. He's getting all of our potions and his spell books. And then I'll just turn the corner and come around, and he has about 3 or 4 villagers that are mad at him, and now he's trying to kill them, and the guard sees us. Now we have the whole village is coming after us.
But does that mess with your quest?
Yeah, then you fail the quest automatically.
So how are you not divorced? Because I feel like you would be really
because
I don't want that.
Thankfully, Larian has the same kind of mechanic we were talking about earlier, where you can just save whenever you want. So
you just roll back your file.
I just roll back. Yeah, I have to save about every 10 minutes when I'm playing with him.
Is that why it takes you so long to finish?
No,
probably.
At first, yes, because he didn't understand. You don't do that. Because we'll play these games multiple times. The first time, no,
I said stop.
I said stop fucking pickpocketing everyone. I know you're watching this.
You can pickpocket them. Just be better at it.
Well,
so that they don't know.
I know, but when you first start though, you're so bad at it. So
that's
it's
why you
pickpocket
other shit that doesn't matter until you get really good, and then you go to town and you steal from everybody.
You're using logic.
I am for the pickpocketing, Jason. I love pickpocketing.
No, it's the best.
In games, it's so fun. But yeah, you gotta do it.
You
right.
gotta be good, and sometimes you'll fail. But yeah, so the first time we play, I always want to make sure I get everything, do all the quests, and then when we play through the second time, like, go ahead, just kill everyone. It's fine. It doesn't matter. I've already seen what this town has to offer. But it's just little things how you can cooperate with people. So if we are at a pickpocket, if let's say we wanted to pickpocket Andrea, right? You're the pickpocketer. I would walk up to her.
I dare you to try.
And
stealth up next to you.
Reach into her butts. I would.
Is that where you keep your stuff?
Sometimes. Listen, don't judge. Okay, continue on.
So I would engage in a conversation with her, and then you would have to go behind her while she's distracted. But if there's other NPCs around, they'll see you. So then you have your party of 4. Then you can control your other 2 party members and try to distract those people so they can't see us.
You just make a really inconspicuous circle around somebody.
You do. Or if you
don't mind us.
If you don't have enough, you can pick up barrels and like place her around a barrel so you can pickpocket her.
Hey,
It's
ma'am,
just so good.
could we just talk to you just over here, just a little more to the left? Yes, yes.
my
Okay,
gosh.
great. You're
Start
in position.
pickpocketing you.
Pickpocket.
Yeah, so it's essentially, it's a huge fantasy RPG. The combat is one of my favorite parts of this game. So it works in the sense that it's a CRPG. You have action points that you get every turn, and then each skill you want to do, every move you have to use action points. And so you have to make sure if you want to move 3 spots and then use your action points, you have enough depending on what kind of skill you want to use. And it's so tactical, and it's so much fun to play with another person because you have to strategize with them. And we play such different roles. I'm always the face tanker. Jason's always the mage. And then he usually will play
That's good, though. Because if you were both glass cannons, it'd be really hard.
And he loves playing glass cannon. And so that also makes it interesting because then, we have to make sure we tweak our strategy.
His ass all the time.
Yeah, because he's really strong, but he's a weak ass.
He needs to stay in the back and pew,
Someone
pew.
blows on him.
Yeah,
and he dies.
exactly.
Yeah. It's so incredibly fun. And it does have branching storylines and narratives, and it does have those old D&D mechanics of, do you want to roll for like a charisma check or a perception or something like that, and then the choices you make do matter, and the dialogue choices you make matter, and it's just such an incredible game, and definitely I think the most fun I've had this past decade.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that you talk about Divinity quite a bit on the show, but no surprise that it makes your games of the decade for sure. Mm-hmm. So I'll do my combo right now too. Coming as no surprise to anybody, Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 certainly make my top games of the decade. I vividly remember seeing Destiny for the first time at E3 and playing it and just instantly falling in love. I have been a fan of shooters and been a fan of first-person shooters for a while, but I hadn't really found a shooter franchise that I really connected with. I had, a relationship with Halo, but I kind of felt like I got a little, I don't want to say I got burnt by Halo because I thought Halo 4 was a very good game. But it just didn't resonate with me, and the whole story of Master Chief just never really connected with me. And I think something about having my own Guardian that I got to personalize and have that kind of immersion because I created this Guardian really went a long way. From starting at the very first alpha of Destiny to playing all the way up now through, the Shadowkeep DLC and the season that we're in, and kind of seeing the evolution of Destiny as a franchise from when it started to where it is now has been phenomenal across the last, what has it been now? Almost 7 years since I saw it for the first time.
Wow.
And
geez, that's scary.
I hate that.
I mean,
I hate it so much.
It's just been such an amazing experience for me, not only really gravitating towards a first-person shooter and really kind of transitioning as a game player to playing a lot more shooting games than I did early in my time as a gamer, but also developing communities around Destiny. Obviously, I'm wearing my What's Good Guardian shirt if you're watching the video on YouTube, but I had an amazing clan for the original Destiny as well before, we started What's Good Games. And moving to San Francisco when I did in the fall of 2014, it was really hard for me to find, steady work for the first 6 months. And so I really just kind of threw myself into playing a lot of Destiny. And it was the House of Wolves expansion specifically that I kind of really cranked up, how often I was playing Destiny and how often I was playing with a clan and connecting with people. Shout out to Salmons Don't Die for being my ride or die forever in Destiny. And it's been so great forging even more relationships now with Destiny 2 and the What's Good Guardians and being able to meet so many of them IRL and having conversations and being invested in each other's lives that it's gone so much more, further above just being a game or just being a clan. And so I think that's why it was really impactful for me. But not only that, I mean, coming back to the gameplay itself, having a game like Destiny, as repetitive as it is, and as hard as core fans can't deny its repetitive nature, we keep coming back to it over and over again because the gameplay is just so good. The level of polish that Bungie has put in the game is not to be understated. And sure, does it have bugs from time to time? Are there issues? Every game has them. But I think what's great about it is watching how they, as a studio, are evolving every time they make a new announcement, especially now that they've, severed from Activision, to really kind of take the community in their own hands and say, we're excited to really see what the next evolution of Destiny is. So I'm going to get some water for a second.
Putting water. Yeah.
Yeah.
As we've said, it's always fun to check your temperature on the Destinies. How you doing? One day you love it, the next day no. You
I've
love
always
it, but
thought, yes, another fine game is Destiny for me. And so but I'm glad that you love it so much.
you know,
It's one of those things I wish I had loved it as much as you do, because I wanted it to be that game. It just didn't turn out that way for me.
And I understand why people have issues with it. I mean, Destiny is very much like it feels like it's like a black or white game. It's at this point, you either play Destiny and you're
Or
in,
you
you
don't.
love it, or you don't have time for it anymore. So,
Yeah, I think that's fair.
which is kind of a bummer because I wish more of my friends played Destiny, but it's a game as service, so it means it's cyclical. And even though they have seasons of content and reasons to log in all the time, I mean, there's going to be times of the year where you just kind of like abandon it for a little while. I mean, that happened to me, like I kind of stepped away for a couple of months because I just got busy playing other stuff. But I always come back to it because it's like what does Brittany say? It's just like a chicken soup for the soul kind of a thing.
Yes.
Right? Like comfort food
comfort
games.
food games.
It's like Destiny to me is a comfort food game that I know that I can boot up at literally any time and fall right back in and enjoy it and know what I'm getting and like love the characters and the kind of relationships that my Guardian has in game with some of these NPCs and characters in the world, and kind of seeing their relationships with each other. I'm really glad that Bungie has expanded on the lore of Destiny, and I really am just crossing my fingers. Pipe dream. Would love to get like a Destiny story mode that's like a legit first-person shooter game where it's just like a campaign, like a full, long, like 30 to 40-hour Destiny campaign.
Oh,
that's
that
just
would
all
be interesting.
story.
Because there is so much lore in that, but the issue is you couldn't get it in game, right? You'd have to go somewhere else to learn all about the.
Yes, I mean, and they've gotten better about their grimoire inserts now with where we're at with Shadowkeep. Because before you used to have to go to Bungie's website.
That's right.
Which was like, what? Why?
Go to Bungie.com to learn all about the game you're currently playing.
Bungie.net.
Oh, yeah, sorry, it's .net. My bad. Don't go to Bungie.com.
I'm having a coffee
I don't
attack,
know.
but I could go on and on. I love it, and it was a fantastic game, and I think it really, for me, defined the PS4 generation, having them have that marketing exclusivity with specific things with PlayStation from the beginning all the way up until very recently, where now obviously they're trying to do more with other parties and the stuff they're doing with Stadia and yada yada. But I mean, I just love it so much, and it's like one of my all-time favorite franchises now.
I can't believe 7 years ago.
I know that was the part that's tripping me out.
Well, it's officially released, I believe, in the fall of 2014, but we saw it in 2013.
When I was going through papers and I was like, oh, what is this? Oh, it's a thing from 2010. That wasn't that long ago. Wait, yes, it was. But
Yeah.
I still think
It's so weird to think
not
about.
that long ago. Which I guess is not in the scheme of things, but to us.
I mean, so September 9th, 2014, it was a cross-gen game. Remember, they had it for 360 and PS3. Like a lot of things were in those first couple of years, but yeah.
Back in my day.
I love you, Destiny. You can't really see it on camera because it's kind of being cut off, but I've got my little Destiny shelf up here with my Grimoire book and my Ghost and my Cade.
Double Cades.
Yeah. Right. All right, Steimer, you're up.
I think I'll pick one that both Brittany and I have chosen, which is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
That's a good face.
Rivia. Yes, that was a great face Brittany just made. So obviously, CD Projekt Red made a couple Witchers before this one, hence the 3 in the title. But none were as good as this one. The first game was fine.
I like the first two. They had
First
their
game was
charm.
fine.
I think the
game was
second
fun.
game was really underrated.
The second game was underrated. It just had a couple gameplay things where I was like,
Yeah.
but why? But 3 was a masterpiece, right? So it's much more
so
open
good.
world. You can run around and explore to your heart's content, but a lot of the side quests felt very fleshed out. Obviously, they had a lot of like just collectible kind of shit too, where you can wander around, just pick that stuff up. But anytime you really talked to a character in that game, you felt like you were getting a glimpse into how those people lived in that town and maybe some of the problems that they were having. And you could kind of play Geralt however you wanted. You could be more true to what, you know, what you're supposed to be, and that you're very indifferent to all of it. Or you can play him as more of a good guy, or you can play him as kind of a dick.
Oh yeah.
So I liked that they gave you a little flexibility, but also not so much flexibility where it would have felt
It would have
really
broken him as a
off.
character.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And then I just think the whole story arc in general was really well done, and like it had a lot of great moments where like I think I cried at one point. Like,
Oh,
I was,
yeah.
you know, there was just. It was an emotional roller coaster that they took us on, and I was very pleased with the way it turned out. And I do think some people were saying that like maybe you felt like you could get a little lost in the world of it, but I actually felt like they did a good job keeping me interested in the main narrative while also interesting me in these side things. But I never felt fully lost in what was going on the main quest, and I was never like, what was I doing? Like, there are definitely some other RPGs I played over the years where you just completely forget.
Like, what am I doing again?
What am I doing? Why am I
Yeah.
here? What is my purpose? But I always felt like I knew that, even if I was, you know, betting some horse in a house somewhere.
Yes.
Like, you know, just kind of playing what I want.
Yeah, it was interesting. I remember it kind of like with Kratos, but not to such a great extent. Geralt's old man Geralt, right? And especially compared to the first two, where he's this young stud muffin, you know, getting cards of all the women he's banging, and he's kind of like, woo. In this game, you know, he has more responsibilities. He has Ciri. Yennefer's back in the picture. You got
God,
Triss,
Yennefer.
you know, and seeing how he dealt with all of that, it's like, okay, he's softened up a little bit, which I think is natural to come with age and experience. He's not this crazy wild, I'm a young man anymore. Ooh. I hope he never sounded like that. That would be amazing. That'd be weird. I'm like, that'd be weird. That'd be amazing.
Hilarious.
But they did a really good job at evolving him, and I just love Geralt. He's just such a fun character.
I was super, super stoked that they because the third game is the only game Yennefer's in. She does not appear in the other two. Triss does, but you know, there's no Yen to be found. So like, they really needed to kind of nail getting her right, especially for fans of the books. And I really feel like they did. Like, she's powerful, and a lot of times I think I made back when I had my other channel made a whole video on like why Yennefer is not a bitch, and here's why. Like, because I feel like it's so easy to just write her off that way, but I'm like, no, actually it's like it's a little more complicated than that, and like the way she's acting is for a reason, and here's why. And actually some of the things that she's doing are compassionate, but like you just might not read them that way,
right? And I remember playing that game, and you just are in your roach. You're just trotting along, and you're just coming through all these little villages. And I don't remember the last game where I've had that, where you're just like going about your business, just exploring. And then there's like all these people living their lives in their own little tiny poor ass village, you know, doing shit. And you could stop in there. Maybe you'd have interesting conversation with someone, and then you would just go on your merry way. Oh, it was so good. And I love all those characters, like Dandelion, for example, is so funny. I think he's funny.
Yes.
The shenanigans he gets in. And I think he's so great to Geralt, especially in that game too, because the things Dandelion gets himself in, Geralt's like, oh, here we go again. What do I need to bail you out of this time, man?
is the comedic relief.
Yeah, he's so good.
Of the situation.
So funny how they're friends.
And I mean, the other comedic relief that was not intended was Roach.
Oh,
Roach herself, the random bugs, because those were seen all over the internet. They were
the glitches.
pretty funny.
Yeah.
Lots of them.
Just
for
roaches on
sure.
a roof, and you're like, what? Get down from there. What are you doing?
Gosh.
But yeah,
Such a good game.
The game was just really, really well crafted and well populated. So like, yeah, you felt like you were able to just ride around and explore and discover new things and learn about those people there and pass judgment on them, basically, and be like, am I gonna kill all of you, or am I gonna leave you be?
I remember the E3 presentations before that game came out. What year did that come out? 2015? 2014? 2015? Yeah, I remember the E3 demos behind closed doors. You know, they would show Geralt wandering through the plains or whatnot, and they say, okay, see that house back there? If you go back there, there's a really interesting mission, and it's going to spiral into 3 other missions, but we're not going to do that. By the way, it's totally optional. And I remember at the time, like, I think we see that a little bit more now in games, but at the time, that was a mind-blowing thing. Like, really? Like, I can just go over there and start this thing? It's not just there, because the world was so huge. So much to see and do and discover. I want to play it again.
Yeah, and I think again, it's a testament to the studio, right? I remember, like, thinking how radical some of the philosophies CD Projekt Red had in relationship not only to the way that they make their games, but also in how they publish and sell their games. Because, you know, right in the middle of the decade is kind of where it started to this whole idea of people getting very kind of like turned up about microtransactions and the segmentation of games and DLCs and having it feel like you were not getting the value for your game purchase as you had previously. The Witcher 3 kind of came in as a breath of fresh air to say, hey, we believe in our vision for this game. We put our heart and soul into making this gigantic world with all of these quests, and we're going to put it in the game. And then when they did add DLC, it was a giant offering, right? So, excuse me. I mean, it was just a lot for your money.
Yes, it was. You go ahead and you take care of the coughing while I mention how. Okay. One of the things I really liked about it was the way you as Geralt getting to build those relationships the way you wanted with, I mean, yes, technically they're the romantic ones, but you know, like with Yennefer and with Triss, and like the way they tied in the Last Wish into the game, and then being like, okay, well now you basically get to decide, like, was that what it was or was it not?
God,
like,
that's so good.
And so, and I think one of my favorite scenes in the whole thing, this game is very old, whatever, there's a battle of Kaer Morhen, and when there's like basically people are attacking the fortress, and Yennefer basically just like force fields the whole thing.
So badass.
I was like,
I love you.
So cool. She's so strong and beautiful, and I love her.
So pretty.
She smells like a gooseberry.
Oh my god. There was a moment. I think it was also that when. Okay, I'm gonna spoil someone who dies during that fight. What's his name? Vesemir. So Vesemir.
Papa Vesemir.
Oh my god. And you know he was in the first game, right? And it's like you kind of like grow attached.
He's basically like your mentor.
Yeah.
I was gonna say father figure. I mean, he kind of is a father figure,
I think
too.
so. I think the respect is there for sure between Geralt and him. Rip. So after that scene happens, you know, Ciri and Geralt want to get revenge, right? They want to get who was ever responsible for that. And there was a scene where they're just on their way. They're in a boat and they're just like crossing some river to get somewhere. I'm not sure where they're going. But what I remember is that moment was so impactful. I was sobbing that I made sure I recorded the scene on my PlayStation, and I took a screenshot and I put it on a big canvas, and it's now in my house.
Oh, wow.
It's in my hallway. And because I remember that scene, I mean, I really like Vesemir. He was
Vesemir was great.
And and the fact that Geralt really respected him, and, you know, because Geralt doesn't show a lot of emotions. He doesn't have any emotions. It's just the way he's wired.
I mean, he kind of does. But and I think even actually to that point, so when you were bringing that up, I'm like, they had the whole element, you know, obviously you have the romantic relationships with Yennefer and Triss and whatever horror you choose to bed. Yes. But the main relationship you are building and working on is with Ciri. And I think that was really fun to see Geralt be kind of like a dad. Maybe we just like seeing dads. I don't know, because I was just like, wait, it was Kratos. Yeah. And now the same thing with Geralt, where you're like, oh, he's a big griff dude, but he has a heart of gold whatever. And it was fun to see how that game was much different in the sense, you know, from the from the Kratos game, from God of War. Brain is a little on the fritz today, but that's okay. Because you know, in God of War, yes, you are obviously like sort of molding your son, but you don't have a whole lot of control over it. Right. It's just kind of as the game progresses, that's what happens. But with this, the decisions that you make with Ciri, the way you teach her how to behave, or the way you boost her or don't, or make like the whatever it is that you're doing when you're interacting with her makes it hell of a difference.
Oh, I know.
End. And if you play it wrong, I will say it's wrong, because she dies.
Oh, yes.
Like she can die or she can live, and it's a lot about your parenting skills, which I think is so much pressure.
It's so much pressure, because I pride myself on being someone who typically makes all the right decisions. She died in mine.
She did?
She did.
I didn't. I had made, when I went back and looked, because you can obviously look up on the internet exactly which decisions make which impact. There was like one, I think there was maybe two that I got quote unquote wrong. But that was like the bare minimum that you can get wrong with her living. So like I just by the skin of my teeth
got it. Yeah, I don't even know. I think I may have been too far gone. And I was so surprised by this because, I save a lot. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll just reload a save and lose a few hours of progress.
But yeah, because they
back
they
there.
start really early. Yeah.
I was just screwed. So I think I forgot that ending and I just had to look it up on the YouTube. But, well, I think we can move on to the next game. Andrea's still not back, but you and I can talk about this.
Yes.
Dragon Age Inquisition is one of my next favorite games. Right? Yeah. Of the decade. Of the decade. And it's funny talking to you about these games because I feel like when we were playing these, we were just texting nonstop back and forth about the decisions.
I think I texted you approximately 20 screenshots of my character because I couldn't get it right.
And then I was like, she looks pretty. And then
you were like, she's fine, just start the game. And I was like, I can't, I'm going to remake her.
And then, you would remake her. You'd make her. I was like,
I'd be like, well, what about this one? This version or this version? Which version do you like? I have 2 saves ready to go with both of them. Oh, wait, I don't like either of them. I'll make another
And I so badly wanted to chat with you about the beginning of Inquisition, but you're like, no, I'm still building my character.
It took me 20 hours to get through the first 30 minutes of that game.
Yeah, so Dragon Age Origins is also one of my favorite games of all time.
Yes, it's a great game.
Amazing game. Dragon Age 2, I appreciate its importance.
Again, should not have been called Dragon Age 2.
Should not have been called Dragon Age 2. But if you can get past that and just appreciate it for the story it tells, because it tells a very important story that leads up to Inquisition.
Yeah.
Very important, although I don't know what happened to Alistair's face in Dragon Age 2. It was not good.
He had some weird plastic surgery.
I don't know what happened to baby boy. He was so hot in Origins. And
then little nips and tucks will catch up to you sometimes. Don't do it.
Don't do it. But no, Dragon Age Inquisition, man, it just took the lore and story from Origins and just turned it into this beautiful masterpiece of a game. And there was just so much to see and do. And it was BioWare, I know like there's a lot of crunch that went to Inquisition, so that's obviously terrible. But
it's crunch with pretty much any video game we've mentioned on
this
list.
That's true. But it's just peak BioWare where they just made an amazing, excellent masterpiece of a game.
I think my favorite thing about Inquisition, it's technically not on my list, but I do appreciate the game for what it was. But I think what was really special about what the writing team did was making a villain you actually respected and understood because of how that all unfolded. And I was just like, that was brilliant. Mm-hmm. And I honestly didn't see it coming. Maybe I should have, but I was floored and I loved that. And so like, that's why I'm very eager for the next installment, but obviously they need to figure out what it is and how to make it correct. But I am just like waiting for my revenge on Egg. Fucking egg. I want somebody like who has no idea what we're talking about when we say that.
Oh yeah, because
to write into the show and be like, what's this thing about eggs? You don't like eggs? They're full of protein.
I played through a lot of Inquisition, and sorry I had to step off. I had to go get my inhaler. I was having a little asthma attack. I still don't understand, and I played through that whole game.
Don't understand what?
Like the whole egg thing. Obviously, he's got a bald head.
His head looks like an egg.
Yeah,
that's
literally we're just being assholes because he's such a. It's just a jab.
I hated him as a character.
Yeah, it's basically just a derogatory name because he's an asshole.
He is.
Yeah,
and everyone's like, "Wow, your hair looks like an egg."
Yeah,
I call you egg.
I just think about all the options you had to do in that game. Skyhold was so cool. You had all your characters. You had this huge fortress, making your decisions in the war room, how you're gonna deal with certain. Little instances that popped up, right? The romance scene with Cullen was just like,
oh my God, so good.
Gotta climb that ladder naked though.
You have to be like, hold on, I'll meet you there in a minute.
Oh, nice view. Do. Yeah, and
who goes first?
These are the deepest questions of our time, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm wondering who would go first.
I'm the girl, probably.
Probably, yeah. I would. That was probably the better view. Yeah. Anyway, Inquisition. Yeah, the characters were so well done and written, and even in the DLC, when you got to marry Cullen, do you remember that?
Only think about it every day.
I know, it's kind of amazing.
I mean, like he's always her number one husbando. Whenever we have to talk about husbandos,
like Cullen is the best.
I think Cullen's my number one, or Alistair. One or the other. Anyway, yeah, so Inquisition, just like think peak BioWare, like they made such an incredible game. So I said it again, about masterpiece. And just the exploration, even those maps were so big. Do you remember when everyone's like, oh, it's like Skyrim back in the day? That was the example, but I loved it. I never got bored of it. It was just fun to explore. You never knew what you were going to find or come across. You can tell everything had been handcrafted. And like, what if the character goes this way? What are they going to find? And there was a story to be told anywhere you went. And
I actually I liked that they actually didn't do it Skyrim style, like that it wasn't fully
different areas,
open world, and that you could be like, nah, I'm just gonna load over here.
Yeah.
I actually feel like, again, maybe I'm just old now, but that's sort of the style that I prefer for quote unquote open world games. Like, I don't want an open world game. What I want is for you to make me some maps that are open world.
More like an instanced game.
Yeah. Just make me some nice maps that are populated well. That's what I want.
Oh, Iron Bowl and Dorian.
They had a lot of really great character arcs.
Oh,
in
yeah.
Inquisition, and even like Blackwall and like
Oh yeah,
Dorian. And,
Oh,
like they're just
Blackwall.
so many characters that had a very
were so
different point
mad.
of view, and I loved the way they tied some of that to the DLC, and that some of the decisions that you made before, whereas I considered to be the quote unquote correct thing, totally bit me in the ass later, and I was like, oh, what? And then I was like, you know what? Okay, I kind of get it, but oh my god, like it's interesting. You are sort of teaching these other people like what you value, and then therefore they value it and they act in turn. And I was like, damn, maybe I am a heartless person. I don't know. Because some of the things that I did, I was like, this is for the greater good. And then later I was like, oh yeah, you are just doing to me what I did to you.
Whoops.
And that was maybe not the best.
And something else I loved about it was I feel like if you started Inquisition, this could be seen as a positive or negative, but you didn't know much about Dragon Age Origins or 2 or the lore, you probably would get a little lost. It gets real confusing. Like
oh yes.
there you go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes hard into the lore vocabulary pretty quick.
It does, and there's a whole bunch of, I mean, back in the day, I used to spend hours just like on the Dragon Age Wikipedia and just learning about the history. I have all the History of Thetis books, and I read them, and so I appreciated that because I felt like, they're not, because it's such a fascinating world that I think it would have been a disappointment if they had just kind of baby mode, like the lore aspect of it, because it would have felt kind of like you're skimming it. And I feel like with this way the story went, you couldn't really do that and wouldn't have had the impact at the end. Like, what's the Dreadwolf? Well, if you don't know that, then you probably don't give a rat's ass as to what's happening right now.
Yeah.
But I can see it as a good as bad or a bad thing. For you, probably wasn't the best.
I mean, I did feel lost quite a bit of the time. I mean, they did a good job of world building, but there was a lot of those legacy relationships that I didn't have an understanding of, and that they didn't really do a good job of setting up.
Right.
And like there could have been tricks for that, but I know that every game dev feels obligated to say, oh, if you've never played the series, don't worry, you'll be able to get right into it. But like that's just not the case every time, and it's okay. It's okay for you to just be honest and say it would be helpful if you at least like
watched a YouTube video,
watched a video or read some cliff notes or checked out the wiki or something to be like, we wanted to build upon a foundation of people who have seen these characters through since we started the franchise. And I think that that's admirable. I think that it also rewards fans who have been with the franchise to say we want to just like keep building and not have to feel like we have to make this game for everyone.
Yeah.
But it's generally not the accepted
practice. It's not the way to market your game,
well,
according to marketing bros.
Right. Well,
but
it restricts sales ultimately, right? And when you restrict sales, like it hurts the dev teams, and then ultimately it hurts the properties because they won't get made again. So I get it. It's frustrating.
And I also think there's even an element of it that's unintentional, right? Where it's just everyone's inherently biased with the information that they know and they have.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to speak in a way, and that's like, what if I only spoke French? I'd be like, I'm speaking French. You guys be like, what the hell are you talking about? I do not know. I cannot.
Oh, damn.
But no. But
Oh god.
But like the point is, like, I have this knowledge base, but I don't know what you know or don't know until I start saying things, and then you tell me you don't know them. So like it could kind of be hard if you are in a dev team. Everybody knows it, right?
Yeah.
To be gut checking and being like, does this sentence make sense if you've never heard of these characters before? Like I don't know if they necessarily had those touch points, or honestly how common that would even be.
Sure.
But
yeah. Oh god, so good.
Yeah.
Man, I hope the next one doesn't suck.
We all hope that.
Fingers crossed. Dragon Age 4 will happen
Come on,
eventually.
more dragons in the ages.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up Skyrrim because no games of the decade list would be complete without talking about the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, which makes my list. Now, we talked about it beforehand, and you two were kind of like, well, I just didn't really get into it, or it's too buggy. And this.
I mean, I played it for at least 100 hours, but yeah, it was just, the bugs were driving me mental.
I think, like any great long-lived Bethesda game, the bugs were part of
when
the
they
experience.
broke all of my quests.
I never subscribed to the idea that jank is a feature, by the way. I think that they absolutely need to fix them, but I think what was interesting and great about Skyrim, just talking about it from a bug standpoint, is that it reminded you just how big that world was and how amazing what Bethesda Game Studios effort was to make a world where you could literally walk from one end to the other. And then it's just, you get to explore all this amazing landscape and how diverse each of the different sections of Skyrim are. So this was my first time playing the Elder Scrolls series. And I remember going to E3 and seeing this behind closed doors demo, and Todd Howard gave the presentation. And at that time, I did not know who Todd Howard was. I was just like, oh yeah, he works on the game, obviously. Did not realize he was like the Todd Howard.
Todd.
And it was so fascinating to me watching this like 45-minute presentation about everything that they were changing and upgrading and doing differently for the Elder Scrolls V. And then when it finally came time to play the game, I was kind of blown away by how quickly I got sucked into that world, because I didn't think that I would, because normally I'm not like a big open world RPG fan. It just wasn't my thing. There's just too much choice, and it was overwhelming. But something about Skyrim really hooked me, and I played hundreds and hundreds of hours of this game. And I think it's also worth recognizing that this game spawned an incredible wave of content creation on YouTube. So this was right when I was working at Machinima, one of the top multi-channel networks back when multi-channel networks were a thing. And we had so many creators that were making machinimas inside Skyrim, using the engine, using mods, all kinds of really fun stuff.
The modding scene of that game was super fun to watch.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Thomas the Tank Engine.
Oh, it's so good.
And I think that people make things like that in games because they love it and they want to keep spending time in the game, and they, want to find ways to stay engaged even if they've completed everything. It was one of the few games that I had to remind myself to go back and do the main quest line, because it's so easy to get sidetracked just doing, guild quest lines or uncovering a new town or just like walking through the wilderness and seeing what you can find. And I think that there's so few RPGs that kind of nail that sense of exploration and kind of reward you for it, because there's been other RPGs, that have come and gone that I've enjoyed, but it never quite feels like Elder Scrolls. And it's forever something that people compare other RPGs against for a reason. And I just loved this game, and I spent so much time with it. And it was the game that didn't die. We kept making jokes about it. Even Bethesda made a joke about it, and they made it on Alexa because they were getting so much internet memes about like what's the next platform that Skyrim's going to be released on. And so they were like, let's just lean in.
I played it on Alexa for a while. That was a fun night.
You did?
Yeah. I poured myself a glass of whiskey, and she was like, okay, you're doing this. You come across two paths. Where do you go? What do you want to do? You'd have a fight, and you have to tell her like what action you wanted to take. Yeah, that was fun.
When you were talking about Skyrim, my brain immediately pulls up a few memories. One is a bug that was funny, and it basically, after you kill the first dragon in the town, you leave the town and you come back and the skeleton randomly just falls out of the sky. I screamed because I didn't know what was. It's just like all of a sudden there was a dragon falling from the sky, but it was just the bones, and it just startled me. And then the other thing that I love about it, and this is not the only game that's done this, but the lines are repeat in my head. So I played like a stealthy character, archer. So I remember like picking off people, and you'd be like, okay, for your two guards, I kill you. And then you walking up and being like, what was that? Then being like, I guess it was the wind or whatever. And you leave, you're like, your friend is dead and you just saw their body.
So
what are you talking about? It's the wind. Wind doesn't, it can kill people, but probably not in that way. And it was just like, I remember cracking up and thinking about that. There was a lot of like funny things like that where Skyrim is technically I don't want to say a serious world, but it can be.
Right.
But
it's
also
like high
has
fantasy. Yeah.
It also has those moments of levity with what is that? Oh, nothing. My friends are all dead. I'm the only one left.
Well, it's like that first town that you come to at the very beginning of the game, where if you accidentally like kill a chicken or
Dude,
something,
I learned
like the
that
whole
lesson.
town
They
like
just
mobs
freak
you.
out. Yeah.
I learned that lesson the hard way. I mean, I'm Zelda player, obviously. I was like, oh, chicken, I'm gonna hit it, see what happens. Oh no, that was a big mistake. I love Skyrim. It was definitely, I was very addicted to it for a while. It was a thing when I was still working full time for somewhere else, and I would come home and I'd have to get up at like 4 a.m. to drive down to work that next day, but I would play until 12, just thinking, wishing I could just play Skyrim. Like, it was all I was thinking about. But my problem was I just never got past this first or second dragon, or maybe the first one. I don't remember. I know I got the shout, Fus Rodal, And then
You only got one
You
shout?
only got one
no,
shout.
maybe I got a couple more because there's another one.
There's like a bunch of shouts.
Yeah.
No,
in
there's
the game,
yeah, but I had a couple. I rewrite. I remember that one and then another one. But my thing is, I just got lost exploring. Like I just loved walking through, finding a cave. Ooh, let's go in here. What's in here? Or maybe it's a tomb or something. And that is so right up my alley. That's the kind of high fantasy stuff that I really love. I love that nerdy shit. But I think I put like 80 to 90 hours into that game, but I never got past a few of the missions because you can do that because you just lose yourself. And I so badly want to go back and play it and actually experience it, but like, hello, that's never going to happen. So
Why?
No,
Why
I'm not
not?
doing that.
well, the time for one. Like, there's too many things coming out.
That's true.
And
I'll wait for the next.
the beauty and curse of what we do is like I could play Skyrim, but are people going to care about my thoughts and opinions on it more than like Kakarot or more about like Final Fantasy VII? Or it's just we talk about that. We're open about that. Someday, maybe that'll be my next holiday game.
Yeah, I think you would really enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it nails that RPG progression loop where you are allowed open world exploration, and so that means you're absolutely going to stumble into a dungeon that you are not prepared or powerful enough for, but you're going to try it anyway, and then you ultimately leave because you keep dying, and then you come back later when you're like boss, and you're like, I kill all of you with one hit now.
And I love that you can
That's always so
customize
fun.
your
Yeah.
character how you want. And I remember I was trying to work on my sneak, so I'd go into
You
the
just
guard.
sneak everywhere.
I would go into the guard barracks when it was daytime. I think this is how you do it. And then I would sleep until it was dark. When they're all sleeping, now all the guards are in their little beds. And then I would just crouch and walk back and forth across the room. And that really increased my sneaking. I'm like, oh, I love this broken game.
Yeah, I also loved that you could put like a pot over someone's head and then steal all of their shit.
Yep.
Wait, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they can't see you.
Oh, like
'Cause there's
cover
the
the
pot
face.
You just
Oh.
cover. It's like putting a blanket over a bird cage. The bird can no longer see you. They think it's time for bed, but it's a human sitting or whatever creature
sitting with their
behind.
pot over-
It was just so like I loved that the game allowed you that freedom to be weird.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I love Divinity so much is that same sort of thing. And I didn't know you could do that. That's really funny.
Oh, I definitely.
I'm glad you brought this game up. It
Yeah.
didn't make my list, but it was really fun.
For me, like it's one of the most definitive games of the last decade
Sure.
for how prolific it was, being cross-generational, all the different ports that's gotten over the last couple of years, and just kind of seeing the work that Bethesda did on it, and really more so how so many other games are compared mechanic-wise against Skyrim and against the Elder Scrolls franchise and everything that they've kind of created or innovated in the open world RPG landscape with that franchise. And I think it's just no list would be complete without it. So, okay. We each have, I believe, 3 left. So we'll take one more very quick break. And when we come back, we're going to round out our top 5 games of the decade. Welcome back, everybody. Of course, we are talking about our favorite games of the decade here on the What's Good Games podcast. And now we're going to kind of finish up with where we're at with our personal picks. So, Steimer, you're up.
All right, we're gonna go to the Wild Wild West.
Straight to
I was like,
Wild Wild West.
Whoa,
yes, that. The original Red Dead Redemption
Yay,
is
this is on mine too.
still to me one of the best games ever made. I just feel like the story of John Marston was so compelling. I was so distraught by the ending of that game. But I also then loved the way that they picked it up and like carried it forward. There were so many things that they did really well with it. Also, it was just super fun to ride around on your horse and just be like, I'm gonna do whatever. I'm gonna go over there, kind of like we talked about with other open world games. It was fun to just run around and explore. But maybe conversely, I don't know what like the emptiness was actually part of the appeal.
Right,
here, like, kind of what I'm trying to say. Like, it would be naturally empty. It's the fucking desert. Like, it's so but sometimes you'll get your ass attacked by a puma. And
the bears too.
it's always fun. Yeah, when you have like wildlife that just comes out of nowhere and tries to eat your horse, and you're like, oh, why?
That sucks.
Yeah, but there
Yeah.
were so many like cinematic moments in that game too. I still remember when the first song plays when you enter in Mexico, and there are so many really interesting defining moments that have just stuck with me after all these years, because that game released in 2010.
Yeah, that's hard to believe.
And I'm like, I still remember so much of it. And everybody who's listened to this podcast should know that my memory is garbage. So the fact that I remember a majority of this game, I also 100% of this game.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Not the trophies or achievements, but I did everything you could do in the game, which includes knifing a bear to death. And it was very difficult. I don't know why. I was just like, I wanted more. I just wanted to keep playing this game. And so any stupid task it was going to give me, I was going to do. And that was one of the stupid tasks. And so, like, obviously I loved Red Dead Redemption 2, but it didn't have the same impact as the first game did. And again, I kept thinking, like, maybe I played this wrong. Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe that's why this is happening to me. But then kind of realizing, like, no, this is the way it was always going to go. You've really just been buying time, and that's it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was really powerful to me, and I just still think about it.
At least it prepared us for RDR 2.
Yeah.
Nothing happy was ever going to happen in the game. Anyway, yeah, so Red Dead Redemption, I also feel like that was just yesterday, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
I was 21. Wow.
Little baby.
Little baby. I had just moved back in with my parents because I was doing that crazy 3-hour commute every day. And I was like, no more. I'm moving closer to work. And my parents were right there. So I stayed with them for a few months. And it was at that time I was playing Red Dead Redemption. And that was the first game I'd ever played that had that Western setting to it. And I never had played one before, obviously. So I was so surprised with how much I loved it. Like, I love games now in Western settings. Granted, the only other one I've played besides RDR 1 and 2, I think, is West of Loathing, which does not count, but it kind of does. That's a really cute game. That was stick.
I played that for a bit.
But I also just love the world, and it was just so beautiful. I remember for the time, it was just a gorgeous, gorgeous game. And I remember you could just gallop through the emptiness and look up and see like a hawk circling above your head, and you could shoot it if you wanted to. But you
were good.
Yeah, and back then, again, like for me, that was kind of a new concept with these big open world games where you can just kind of do whatever you want and take your sweet baby time. And that, I mean, obviously the ending we talked about life a lot on the show, but I've never been so heartbroken, I think, before, and never had experienced a game with so much loss like that and how tragic it was. And yeah, it also just really stuck with me. And poor baby, poor Mr. Marston, just such a compelling character. He was trying to do good. He was trying to turn his shit around, and then nothing good happened because of it.
See, I never gravitated towards that storyline. I never gravitated towards Marston as a character. And having finished Red Dead Redemption 2, I definitely think very differently of John Marston as a character now, having, seen everything that he goes through with Arthur. But there was just something about it. I played probably like 20 hours of that game, and it just never clicked for me.
It happens.
Yeah.
I remember playing blackjack with the guy. No, poker. You played poker.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know how to play poker at the time, so I'd call my dad in because, again, I was living at home, and he'd come in. We would just play poker for hours. It was just a fun time, and he was into it because he always watched Westerns growing up. So I saw him, and man.
Yeah.
Memories.
Brittany, what's your next?
Sorry, I'm all sad and blargy now.
I know,
let's see.
it was a sad pick. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I guess I could talk about another lovely upbeat game, The Last of Us.
Oh boy.
You guys knew this game was going to make somebody's list.
Yeah. So I have a kind of a bad memory also when it comes back to like older games that I remember how they made me feel, but I don't remember like why I felt that way or why I cared so much. Obviously, The Last of Us kind of speaks for itself. I think not everyone, but most people would say that's just like a masterpiece. So I went through and I was reading some of my old blog posts I made when I was playing The Last of Us for the first time back in, when did this game come out?
13.
Yeah, so 7 years ago-ish. I was reading some stuff that I wrote 7 years ago, and the things I said in that blog post were really cute. I was like, I have never been so immersed into a game before like this. The sound design, the audio, it's also incredible.
That game is all about sound design.
Oh, it is, yeah. And that game blew me away too because this was like right when I was kind of getting into my video game career. And I mean, I've been doing a couple of years, but I hadn't quite like tuned in that critical, little thing you get when you play games critically. You kind of like start to appreciate certain things. And that was the first game that I really appreciated the sound design in that game. And it's one spot in particular that I remember so distinctly. You're making an escape. I think it's toward the beginning of the game. And you have to hide in some metal container, or you're trying to get some cover from the rain or whatnot. But the second you step inside that metal container, the sound changes from rain falling to rain hitting something metal. And I just thought that was so cool, and it completely blew me away. And I was like, oh my God, this game. And I just had a huge soft spot for Joel. Ellie this is interesting reading my commentary on the game. I didn't really click with Ellie for some reason. Like, I didn't really vibe with her all that much, but I really loved Joel. He was a big softie. And at the end, I didn't really care. So I'm spoiling The Last of Us here if you've never played it. It was
7 years ago.
Yeah, come down.
And I feel like they've spoiled it themselves at certain points too.
Yeah. I didn't really care what was happening to Ellie, but I cared how it was impacting Joel. I was like, he's so sad right now. You know, he finally found something worth fighting for, and now it's going to be taken away from him, and he's not going to let it. And at the end, when you're running through the hospital, I think it's a hospital or it's a compound.
It's basically, it is, I think it was at one point like a medical center. It's now their base.
And all the fireflies are shooting at him. I thought for sure he would get shot and be killed, and I was all sad about it. I was just crying through the whole scene. And that was, again, like one of the first games that really, I was like, oh my God.
See, I remember the ending, but for a different reason.
Yeah.
And it was because I didn't like it.
I remember you
did not
yeah.
like the Rambo style Joel kind of flipping out and murdering all of these people. To me, it felt like somebody just flipped a switch and was built a different game randomly at the end.
Oh.
Because the whole game up until that point, for the most part, is all about quiet and how quiet can you be and how can you maneuver through these enemies without hopefully alerting all of them, because if you do, you're dead. And then, I mean, you have a little bit of it when like the people come and Joel's injured and you have to kind of like murder everyone as Ellie. But I don't know, from even with that, I felt like the ending, that part, I should just specify, that part of the gameplay felt out of place to me. Not the actual ending itself. I totally believe that Joel would like run in and try and get her out of there.
Yeah.
I just, as soon as it picked up like the camera cuts and you have control over him again, I thought it was going to be a massive stealth section. I thought it was going to be like, you need to try and get to this door without alerting everyone because there's so many people here. Statistically, someone's going to hit you. Like, that's just math. So that part I didn't like.
Because it was too different from,
it was too different from everything else. It was too far taken out of reality for me. Granted, obviously all of it's not reality, but it
when
is
the game
supposed to be more,
right.
it had a lore to it. And so for it to be, it kind of in that moment, was dishonest with itself, kind of.
Interesting. I think the way I perceived it was he's flipped. He's snapped.
Oh.
Like his baby girl is going through some shit, and if he doesn't,
totally.
But I can see that too.
I was thinking it was going to be like a fast stealth, right? Like just be like you're trying to move as quickly as fucking possible, like around the edges, in the shadows, and remaining there and not being alerted to, you know, your position, and then you could bust in the room and either kill the doctor or not kill it. I did not.
Yeah.
That was nice.
I don't think I did either.
I was just like, I threaten you. You put her down. Okay, you go. You go about your life.
Maybe I did kill her. I don't remember.
And then yeah, you take her. But I do really love the ending moment of Ellie basically being like, "You sure? You sure that's what happened?" And he's like, definitely." And then she's
Will this
like,
face lie to you?
"All right."
Yeah.
Like, you know, she's just like, "What at this point? What can I do? We're gonna move on from this."
Yeah. And as intense as that game was and how much it made me want to shit my pants, there are those beautiful in-between moments where it was just quiet and it was just you and Ellie going about your business, having that banter and those conversations. And I think that also was so beautifully well done and so well placed that I hope we have that in the second one. It's such a good game.
I think it really, it cemented Naughty Dog as a studio that focuses on the impact of narrative in video games, and they have now forever been known as, one of the top tier narrative developers. They make amazing stories. I think for me, I still have the same frustrations with gameplay, and like I do appreciate that they did focus on some of those quieter moments, but I just as a player need more game in my games. And so I think that there was just certain parts of it that didn't resonate with me, but I do love what they did with Ellie and Joel as characters and the relationship that they built, and like this really interesting story that they told about, an infection and how it's different than like your typical like zombie story, and how, there's these factions and how they interact with each other. And I'm very much looking forward to what they're going to do with The Last of Us Part 2. But that being said, I would probably not have picked this in my top, but I get why people did. I have a whole list of games here that I'm like, I absolutely understand why somebody would pick these to be in the games of the decade, but they just weren't for me. But a game that was for me, that did come out in this past decade, that probably is not going to make anybody else's list, but I spent probably more hours playing this one game than any other game.
Rip.
Paragon.
Oh,
I know. So sad. So Paragon was a third-person MOBA, multiplayer online battle arena game from Epic Games that was released on PC and PS4. And that's how I got into it, because it was a console MOBA that was third person, but it felt more like an action game or even more like a third person shooter than a MOBA. And it was really the game that got me into the MOBA genre, where I got to learn all of the kind of very specific gameplay pillars that define what a MOBA is. And I had played Smite, and I had played a little bit of League, and I never was going to attempt to try Dota. Just wasn't in the cards for me. And I had played a couple other MOBAs up until then, but for some reason there was something about Paragon specifically that just grabbed me. And I played probably over 800 hours of Paragon, which is kind of wild to think about. Had an amazing crew that I rolled with playing Paragon as well, but I also would just jump into like bot matches just for the fun of it. It was the first time that I finally kind of understood why people are so ravenous about content and learning around characters in the MOBA community. When you look at the scene around like League World, or if you look at the scene around the International for Dota, and like how that community is just so invested. And it's like, because they want to watch people play at the top of their game. And I didn't get that until I played Paragon, when I found myself for the first time in my entire life watching streams and strat builds on YouTube and on Twitch. And I had never done that before. I would go and watch like a puzzle solve or like a walkthrough to like find where a collectible was. But I would never sit down and just watch people to like learn how to be a better player. And that was the game that did it for me. And it was at that moment when I was playing Paragon that that it clicked, like why hundreds of millions of people around the globe like are so into the MOBA genre. And I just was so heartbroken when they announced that they were going to cancel it in favor of taking that team to work on Fortnite, which, listen, I get it. Paragon wasn't exactly like raking in the money. And anyone who's designed or worked on a MOBA knows that it's just like a never ending horizon of balance and fixes and tweaking. And then you have to add in new characters and you have to rebalance the old ones. And like, it's a whole thing. And so I get why Epic made the decision they did, but I was really sad because I thought it had a lot of promise, because the verticality that they put in the levels with traversal and being able to kind of like jump between levels is just not something you see in MOBAs at all. And how they kind of changed the way that they were looking at the jungle as a mechanic was really different and exciting, I thought. And it felt approachable because they didn't have like an excessive amount of items, and they didn't have like this crazy deep bench of heroes or champions. And so I was like, this is it. This is my time to finally like play a MOBA and like hopefully like get good at it.
Taken away from you.
Yeah, but I really loved it. I had a lot of fun. I spent way too much money buying skins and other things in that game, but it was all worth it because I had so many amazing conversations over games of Paragon, because like the average game is like 30 to 45 minutes, but some games we would go almost 90 minutes for a single game. And like,
wow.
Like the either tragedy or the triumph of that final moment of if you're going to like, because come down to the win or not, because when games go long, it's because you're really evenly matched with your other team and neither one of you is making enough progress because
no one's snowballing.
Exactly. And so it's like, those to me were always the most exciting because it felt like we had team synergy. I mean, don't get me wrong, steamrolling people is fun too, but you don't get the same sense of satisfaction of a win when you get a bunch of kills, like hero kills and things in a row, because you're clearly like playing against an undermatched team,
right? Or
against people that just don't know how to build for those heroes or whatnot. But I had to mention it because I think the genre overall, the MOBA genre, had its moment in the last decade, and clearly like MOBAs are here to stay and they're only going to get more prolific. We are seeing, the rise of MOBAs on mobile, and hopefully more different types of more accessible MOBAs are coming down the line. But I could not mention.
Oh yeah, that was your baby.
My bae, Paragon.
Yeah, rip, man.
Yeah, rip.
Pouring out. Pour one out.
It's okay. Someday Steimer's going to teach me how to play League again. It's been too
I'm
many
not
years.
very good either, so it'll be a fun time. So my next pick is a game that I never thought I would actually find one of the installments that I would really love. And it's actually GTA. So GTA 5 came out, and I tried playing pretty much every GTA before that, and I would play it for a bit, but I would just always fall out of it. I was just not super interested in the characters, what they were doing. I hated driving. I still hate driving in video games. So like for me, I had basically just written off the franchise, right? I was like, look, it's just not for me. I just hate driving video games. The whole game is basically driving. I just can't do it. Then GTA 5 came out, and I was like, fine, I'll give it another go. Everyone's talking about it. That one character looks batshit crazy. I'm into batshit crazy. Let's go. And loved it. Like, just absolutely loved this game. Poured a lot of hours into it. And I actually didn't hate the driving somehow. I was like, I mean, granted, again, I'm not good at it. I think I definitely ran over a few people.
Oh, that's what you do. Don't you get points for running over people?
No, you get the cops called on
yes.
you is what you get.
Lots of law enforcement comes your way when you hit pedestrians.
That's right.
Yeah.
I would always hit people, and also you have to hide. And it's been a hot minute.
But I thought it was really fun what they did with the 3 main characters. I loved the way they cut between them. So if you were like, okay, well, now I'm going to switch over to Michael, whoever, the camera like cuts up and then zooms out over to where they are in the world and then zooms back down and kind of, it's basically like checking in on that minute. You got this feeling like they were just living their life, and then now you come and now you control them, Puppet Master. But it was just so interesting and cool, and I loved the way that they all interacted. I really, really, really loved GTA 5, and I did not think that I would. It was very surprising to me.
Without a doubt, one of the most impactful games of the decade as well. You think about the longevity of GTA 5 and how even today it's in the top 10 MPD sales for like the base game, which is wild to think about.
Yeah, because that was also another 2013.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, like I remember when they were getting ready to reveal GTA Online, because they had like that big delay from when launch was to when online finally went live. And there was just this like community that just like rose up and was like, we are going to like make GTA Online like this own living, breathing universe. And even today, like how like vibrant and active that community still is something that I just don't quite comprehend. But Rockstar is such a fantastic studio about always giving updates. I remember when I was at The Escapist, I was doing news stories constantly about new content drops and new things that they were adding to GTA Online. And, you know, they kind of went a little quiet for a while, which I think was good because that team needed a break. Yeah. But then they came back with this big casino update that they did, you know, a few months back now. And like it feels like that community is alive and kicking again. And I think obviously all eyes are on like GTA 6, but like the idea that that game is still being sold at almost full price because they can.
That's insane.
Is bonkers. What, over 65 million copies sold, I think?
Wow.
It's bananas.
It's bananas.
Yeah. It's crazy.
You know, I think people play that game who don't play anything else. Like my massage therapist before I moved, and I saw her. I want a couple people.
I just love that you're like, my massage therapist really into GTA.
She loves GTA. Yeah, I mean, because you know, people say, what do you do? It's like I play video games. I'm in the industry. She's like, oh my god, I love Grand Theft Auto Online. That's all she would play.
That's
and
hilarious.
So as I'm trying to get like this really comfy, relaxing massage, she was just telling me about all these people she was killing and all like these heists she was pulling, and she knew nothing about games, but she knew how to play Grand Theft Auto Online, and that was her
amazing.
jam.
I love it.
I stand corrected. It's not 65 million copies. In fact, you guys, I made a mistake. It's 110 million copies sold, and that number is being pulled from a Forbes article from May of 2019. So
it's more than that.
So realistically, they've definitely sold a lot more than that, probably. So I mean, it's just like
that's just insane.
Phenomenal.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, exactly. Brittany, you're up.
So I would talk about Resident Evil 2 here, but I've talked about that enough on the show lately. So
you're still allowed to give it a nod.
This is me nodding at it. Okay, but the other game I'll say instead is Pokemon Go. Because
what? Oh, I mean, I guess for you.
Yeah, for me, that was just such a really cool time. Everyone was talking all about Pokemon. Like my Twitter timeline was just nothing about people showing photos, you know, when they're doing
even the world outside was on. That's true. It's fun to think back on it.
Yeah, Yelp started adding Pokestops to restaurant listings to be like, this restaurant has a Pokestop.
On their little signs outside, they'd be like, yeah,
They'd be
we're
like, we have Wi-Fi and Pokestop.
Yeah. I mean, the whole, I live in like a outside Seattle. It's a smaller little city.
Area.
Rural. I hate that word, rural. Anyway,
It's difficult to say.
there's like a boardwalk there. There's some downtown shops. It was just hordes of people just walking side by side, getting
like the zombie apocalypse.
It literally was so cool. Yeah. And, like a Magikarp would spawn, and it was exciting because it was new. And then you could, do all, because it was a whole like strip of Pokestops. So everyone would be walking, and there was a bar right there. So Jason and I would go and get shots and just walk the boardwalk for hours on time. I lost like 5 to 10 pounds that summer.
I lost 5 to 10 pounds taking shots.
And doing nothing but drinking and walking and catching fucking Pokemon. It was the life.
You were just dehydrated as fuck is what it was.
Oh, hey man, it worked. That's all I'm going to say.
I mean, it was a phenomenon. I mean, I did a story on it when I was at G&D Weekly, where we did the Poke Crawl that happened in San Francisco that met in Dolores Park, and it was like 4,000 people on this Poke Crawl. It was wild, and even today, people are still playing it, and they're still doing community events and still adding to it. And I think it also is worth recognizing that the reason I think that it should get accolades not only because of its community, but also what they were doing with augmented reality tech. I mean, Niantic had been around it for a while making things, and obviously Pokemon Go was based off of Ingress, right? But like the idea that they're using, kind of this like geofencing technology coupled with this idea that you also have this augmented reality aspect to it. Obviously, like really hardcore players turn the AR off to conserve battery life, but that you can put like this idea that you're going to go out in the world and catch Pokemon and throw your Pokeball like in the real world was something I think was really neat. And especially going into this next decade, I think AR and VR games are going to become more and more common and more popular as the tech continues to grow and people figure out how to work with the tech. But I think it's like they absolutely deserve a nod for
making it
that.
Sick though, because that Harry Potter game, haven't really heard much about that one.
So I played it.
It's not the phenomenon.
It's not Pokemon. It's like it's a much different game. And like,
was it, Harry?
But I also think it was. I mean, it was Pokemon. But then I do think, granted, even though it wasn't the first kind of that game, it was the first major franchise to really try something like that and succeed like the dickens.
And even for all the problems that had at launch, all the things that were promised that did not come with launch that we still don't even really have now, oh my god, though, everyone loved it. Everyone played. I spent so much fucking money on that game that I've talked about before, but it was a really cool moment that I hope we can get back some other time. It was just everyone was talking about it, everyone was playing it. It was a really cool thing, and people were getting outside and exercising, and it was just fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, man.
I still walk that boardwalk from time to time, but it's like a graveyard now.
Once it gets warmer, we should do it again. I'm down.
Let's go catch Pokemon and have you pronounce all the names. Yeah.
I'm terrible at it, as you guys know. Okay, so my next pick was a really tough one, and I'm still like, even now as I'm talking about it, I'm kind of wavering about which one to pick. So I'm a gigantic Assassin's Creed fan, and there's been a couple of really fantastic Assassin's Creed games that have come out in the last decade, and there's also been a couple of really terrible Assassin's Creed games. And so part of me really wanted to pick Odyssey, and then part of me is like, no, pick Origins, and then the other part of me is like, but you really want to pick Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. So I think that's the one that I'm going to go with, because I think that I could
What do I want?
I could talk probably ad nauseum about the reinvention of the franchise with Origins and then Odyssey. But what I think I love about Black Flag is that it feels a lot more like classic Assassin's Creed, but they really did a great job of making an environment and a character that brought people back, because they kind of struggled a little bit. I've enjoyed all of the Assassin's Creed games, with maybe the exception of Syndicate. Wasn't really my favorite, but I get that why people have dropped off, whether it be AC3 or maybe it was Revelations or Unity or whatever the reason was that you're like, I'm going to, not play Assassin's Creed anymore. I think Black Flag was so universally loved by people that it brought people back that maybe had stepped away from the franchise, and is one of my top 3 favorite Assassin's Creed games. And what I love also about it is that it was set in the Caribbean. You got these gorgeous blue waters all around. You have these little islands here and there. And Assassin's Creed, and really a lot of Ubisoft franchises, are known for an abundance of collectibles. And they just really gave you a reason to stop at every little island that you came across when you were out sailing. And I loved the naval mechanics that they added into that game. And I thought it was a really fun thing to bring in, because they introduced it in AC3 and then they really fleshed it out for AC4. And I just liked Edward as a character. I thought that he was really, kind of interesting and fun and different than a lot of the other assassins. Ezio being like my number one bae, and kind of the whole like tone and vibe of the setting of Assassin's Creed 4 was just great. Maybe it's because I'm a sucker for like Pirates of the Caribbean, and I was just thinking about pirate things. Yeah, exactly. And being on an island and drinking rum and all that. But the gameplay was just so well done, and I loved what they did with the story and adding in all of these little mechanics. It didn't feel tacked on. They felt like it gave you real progression in the game. Something that Assassin's Creed team, I should say teams, because there's so many different teams within the Ubisoft infrastructure that work on the Assassin's Creed franchise, have kept iterating on since Black Flag to become what Odyssey ended up being, with this like kind of behemoth RPG, kind of going away from the more traditional action adventure that the earlier Assassin's Creeds were, and adding in these RPG elements.
So what direction do you want to see AC going real quick? Old school type or new school?
I definitely think they need to refocus on a lot of the stealth mechanics that I think are underplayed, because I think right now there are some good stealth things that are in the game, but there's a lot of ways to just go in guns blazing and not have to use the stealth. And so I think Origins did a better job with that than Odyssey did. I think the problem that I had with Odyssey was that it was too big. It was too much. They needed to edit it down. And that's why I think I liked Origins a little bit better, even though I like Cassandra as a character better than I liked Bayek. Bayek. But we call him Bayek.
We call him Bayek because he's Bay. He's Bay.
But I think what I would like to see is them take what they've learned from Origins and Odyssey, because the rumor is Assassin's Creed Ragnarok, which we've talked about on the show, which I'm very excited about. And kind of just like edit down and not make it so overwhelming, because there's just too much happening. There's too many collectibles. There's too many things to unlock. And like, it just feels like it's a 300-hour game that doesn't need to be a 300-hour game.
That's why I stayed away.
And I think that it would save them a lot of time and money if they didn't put all that stuff in there. I mean, in fairness, like I've talked to the teams at Ubisoft about this before. I talked to the team at Massive about it with The Division. I've talked to Assassin's Creed devs about it. I'm like, why do you guys put so much stuff in the game? It just feels like it's busy work. And they're like, you'd be surprised how much feedback we get from players that say they want all of that stuff in the game. They want things to chase. They want a lot of reasons to keep coming back to the game. And I was like, okay, that seems like a very fair answer. But push up glasses Andrea's like, I want to see the data on how many people completed all those collectibles.
I have a wonder about that.
The thing is that people don't always know what they want.
Yeah.
Just going to say that.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Also, I've noticed if I've played a game that I want to talk about on the show and there's so much to do, it seems overwhelming, it seems like busy work. But I know once I played it, like Kakarot is a perfect example of this. When I first started playing, I'm like, okay, there's so many orbs. I don't want to do all this. I just want to get through the story, what's happening. But as soon as I talked about it on the show, got my initial preview out, I was able to go back in that world and actually enjoy it and take it in. So sometimes I wonder how much the busy work it has to do with what we do, which like we have to kind of like try to get through games quickly as possible sometimes.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, I mean, that's fair. And I don't want to go too far off the beaten course of our conversation here, but I think it's worth noting because we have talked about a couple of really big games between GTA and Skyrim and, Witcher, Assassin's Creed. I think it also comes back to the idea that most gamers don't have budget to buy a lot of games throughout the year. And I think things like Xbox Game Pass are changing that, or this idea that you can just buy a subscription now and you can have a ton of games to play. But I think it's important that we remember that so many gamers are maybe going to buy 1, 2, potentially 3 games for the whole year. And so maybe that $60 or $70 that they spend on a game needs to last them months and months at a time. So, I mean, it doesn't hurt the game to have that stuff in there as long as they don't tie it to the progression of the game. But to me, I always get like map fatigue, for lack of a better phrase.
Samurai knows all about that.
When you open it and you're like, oh God, there's too much happening on the map. Oh, make it go away.
Insta reject, just instantly turned off.
Yeah, exactly.
Insta dry panties.
All right, we're gonna kind of lightning round our last 3 picks. Steimer, go.
It's a weird pick, but it's one of the, what I would say, we use the word beautiful a lot. I really do think in general, this is a beautiful fucking game. It's Child of Light. Basically a bedtime story that was beautifully done, both in terms of art, music. I still have a lot of that music. I bought the soundtrack because it was so great. And I think about it a lot. And I even really liked the combat. So the combat was basically turn-based, but a little more action-y. you needed to be paying attention and like keep in time with it. But yeah, so kind of a weird pick maybe that most people wouldn't, but
That's why you're so unique and beautiful and lovely. That's why we love you. Thank you, Steimer. I'm going to say Diablo 3. I think that is just the epitome of a dungeon crawling, loot gathering, root tooting good time. I think there's a reason why games that are like Diablo are called Diablo-like games. And that was just an incredibly fun game. I loved wandering with that. I love how you can customize your characters. I loved all the loot, all the crafting. It's just a good time. Rah, rah, Diablo 3.
Good pick.
Thanks.
My pick, and this is tough because I was going back and forth, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention Portal 2. So this is the very beginning of the decade, but Portal
Such a great game.
was something that I was very unfamiliar with until I went to an E3 demo to watch Portal 2. Then I eventually went back and played the original Portal and was like, wow, this is like a puzzle game unlike anything I'd ever seen before. And one of the, to this day, like bars to clear for funniest video game writing ever, potentially.
Oh god, so good.
So, yeah.
GLaDOS as a character is phenomenal. And like just some of the other like world building tidbits that they do with narrative in that game. And it makes me so sad that they've shelved this amazing franchise for so long. I still am holding out hope someday Portal 3. And the addition that they had with the co-op multiplayer where it really truly felt like you needed a partner in order to complete those. Because as Britt, as you know, somebody who plays a lot of co-op, like sometimes the co-op just feels as it's like there, but it doesn't feel compelling.
It wasn't built for it, yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I think Portal 2 really did a great job. And I still maintain to this day that Portal 2 is one of the most perfect video games ever created. Like just top to bottom, start to finish. If you've never played the campaign of Portal 2, I can't recommend it enough. One of my top 10 favorite games of all time. So we do want to give just a couple quick honorable mentions because you probably are listening going, I can't believe they didn't mention this game. Some games that we think are important but maybe didn't make our personal lists. Of course, we have Telltale's The Walking Dead. We've got Fortnite, Minecraft, Rainbow Six Siege on mine, League of Legends, Paragon, I already talked about. Celeste was a game I was thinking about bringing up, and then Life is Strange. Do you ladies have some you want to throw in there? Just some honorable mentions.
I have Life is Strange. I have Borderlands.
Oh, Borderlands 2.
Yeah,
oh
Borderlands 2.
That game was so good.
Yes.
Middle Earth, Shadow of Mordor.
Yes, that was an excellent game too.
Words are hard. I went on patreon.com/whatsgoodgames and I said, hey, we're doing this show. Let us know what some of your favorite games are. And so I just want to read some from our patrons.
Yeah.
Martha Emery, Persona 5, Mass Effect 2, Stardew Valley, Final Fantasy 15, God of War. Sean Hanra, Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, which I guess we should give an honorable mention to.
I had it on my list. I must have accidentally deleted it. But yeah, it was on my honorable mentions
He also
as
said
well.
Persona 5, RE2, Dalalia Lugo, The Last of Us, Bloodborne, God of War, Dark Souls, Overwatch. Tyler McCall, God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, Elmo Shell, Nino Cooney, Journey, Last of Us, Shovel Knight, Spider-Man, Resident Evil 2. And then Brandon Ganondorf, Uncharted 4. Yeah, we never mentioned any of the Uncharted games. No,
they were very good games. But
yeah. Doom, Portal 2, Kingdom Hearts 3, Ori, Batman Arkham City.
Kingdom Hearts 3, get out of here.
Arkham Knight, Dishonored 2, Wolfenstein, The Old Blood, Gears 5. A few more. Keith A. Lewis says Bayonetta, Skyrim, Journey, Last of Us, Dragon Inquisition. All the other ones we said, Monster Hunter, Iceborne. So yeah.
Monster Hunter is a great game. Journey, amazing game. There was another one in there that somebody said that was... Oh, yeah, the Souls series, I think, has made a lot of lists, but you guys know we're just not that type of player. Souls games, I mean, I will openly say just aren't for me, but I 100% appreciate like the work that From Software has done on those games, and I've tried all of them and failed at all of them.
Derek Hoffman also says Super Mario Odyssey was one of his. Mario Kart 7.
Yeah, Mario Kart. Lots of good Mario Karts. Oh, man, what a great decade of games. Now this decade.
Oh man, this decade's starting real good.
Yeah.
Delays suck, but we'll get them before the end of the decade. I hope.
Oh,
I think we're pretty
most
safe
of the
on
games
that
have been delayed are still planning to come out in 2020, as far as I know.
Silly.
The only one, when we'll talk about this, or we will at this point, we will have talked about.
Yeah.
Dying Light. That maybe is the only one that's being pushed to 2021, but
it's okay. That's okay. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
But this has been a great convo. Thank you all to listening for us. Thank you for patrons for writing in and letting us know what their favorite games are. Of course, we want to hear from you guys. If you haven't written in already, tweet to us at whatsgood_games. You can leave a comment on this video on YouTube. Or if you just want to leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform of choice and let us know what your favorite game of the decade is that way, we'll take it. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you next time.